World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
GT3.com.
Office without limits. Slash your telco costs. Boost agent productivity and customer service. Web conferencing for all. Never miss a call. .3CX, everywhere you go, on premise or in the cloud. 3cx.com.
ma saħħalsulhom il-fuel. Ara ġej.
Wara ftit ġranet kellna rebbieħ ieħor fil-logħba tagħna kontra 30 sekonda bil-maqlub.
Suqu fuq ir-riserva xejdu le mhix se tieqaf.
Il-ġimgħa d-dieħla nkunu fuq pompa tal-Enemed oħra nagħtu xi ħaġa oħra.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
Okay, we proceed to the start.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Four drivers left in the championship. All four of them have a chance of becoming the champion of the Malta National GT3 Championship 2021, fueled by Enemed. Jason Muscat, Bernard Vella, Michael Mercia and Dean Vella. All within 10 points of each other, meaning they all have a stake in winning that crown. My name is Kieran McGinley, and joining alongside me for the finale is Mr. Alex Goldschmidt. Alex, you're here for the finale. What a track it is for the finale. We head to Monza to decide who will take the crown once and for all for this season. I'm really looking forward to it.
Good evening, Kieran. Good evening, everyone watching on World Pro Racing. Yes, the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza, constructed back in 1922. It has hosted every single one of the Formula One Grand Prix. Of course, the Italian Grand Prix is happening this very weekend in that region, but it has been a stalwart in operation for nearly a century. And it has hosted GT action in previous years as well. It's full throttle for 70% of the lap. It's got some iconic corners, of course, the Rettifilio chicane, Della Roggia, Ascari, the two Lesmos, and of course Parabolica. These drivers are going to be at full pelt for the majority of the race. And tonight, it's a 1 hour encounter rather than the 30 minutes we've had over the previous 7 rounds.
That's correct, and what we need to make perfectly clear is that although a pit stop isn't mandatory, we'll probably see the drivers having to make a stop in order to make it to the end. As Alex and I were discussing before we went live here on World Pro Racing, that fuel is going to be pretty much at a premium. As you said, Alex, it's 70% full throttle around a lap here at Monza, taking us through 3.6 miles of hallowed tarmac. Surely that fuel stop is going to play into somebody's hands. You surely want that car as light as it can possibly be.
Well, also, you might need a bit of fresh rubber along the way because this track can be rather abrasive at certain points of the circuit, especially when you have to take into consideration lateral sidewalls, momentum in terms of going through the corners. You know, say for instance Ascari, it's a 3-turn chicane as well, amongst other things. You know, Variante del Rettifilio, you know, hard on the brakes. You could lock up, you could flat spot the front tyres quite easily. So thereby, you're going to need to have sharper weapons. I think as the icon that is Mr. Le Mans, Tom Christensen, one particular year, he was asked by the Audi engineers when Lena Gate was actually crewing with the likes of Marcel Fessler, Benoit Trullier, and also Andre Lotterer, and the words Tom Christensen used were, you need your weapons sharp, and that's exactly what the top 4 are going to need tonight. And just by having a look at the points, 8 separate Jason, Bernard, Michael and Dean coming into this round. And I've made a bit of a calculation that if Michael Mercia wins the race, Bernard Vella finishes second, and Jason Muscat rounds out the top 3, then Mercia will win it by 1 point. That's how close it can be this evening. And don't count out the dark horse that is Mr. Dean Vella, of course.
Absolutely, Dean Vella yet to get a win in this championship, but he's been twice on the second place on the podium, so it's very, very close. We have seen the first time winner for Jason Muscat. He was given that penalty earlier on in the season, which meant he had to cede that first position and settle for second place instead. Last time out, he got his win, and that puts him 2 points clear at the top of the table. So really, really has shaken up the order when we headed to that last round. But here we are for the finale of the Malta National GT3 Championship 2021, fueled by Enemed and sponsored by Gaming Malta, the Malta Motorsport Federation, 3CX and Vibe FM. Well, let's take you live to the studio in Malta, where we join Yaz down there in Malta. Yaz, good evening to you.
Good evening, Kieran and Alex. Thank you for the introduction. Right now, I'm joined with Edmund Saliba and Ricardo Flask, who is a lecturer, a sport journalist, and a veteran sim racer. Can you give us a little introduction about yourself?
Hi, good evening, yes. Good evening also to our foreign commentators. Well, as you said, my full-time job is a lecturer. I lecture computer and IT. Part-time, I'm also a sports journalist, and actually I follow motorsport, local football, Formula One, of course, and well, anything related to motorsport, basically. Well, as you said, veteran sim racer. I've been into sim racing for too many years to remember now. I remember racing 2D games. Of course, then things got more sophisticated, I would say. I'm still sort of active into sim racing, but of course the age is kicking in, and I'm not that competitive anymore.
As well, I'm joined with Edwin Saliba. How are you tonight?
I'm doing very, very well. And good evening, everyone. Good evening to our foreign commentators as well. And well, as they said as well, the championship is tight with 4 drivers, really fast sim racers. Let's not forget that these are the best sim racers that we have in Malta. 4 of them ready to win the championship. And well, even they said as well, they mentioned Bernard Vella. Bernard Vella made one big mistake last race when he jumped the start. And for that, he got a penalty. With that, and Muscat winning, it obviously shaked everything up as well. And well, now what Muscat needs to do is he can not relax, but if he starts from pole position, maybe, obviously, and keep that advantage from pole till the end. We know it's going to be a 1-hour race, so it's going to be a bit difficult for him, obviously. But if he can keep that little advantage, he can win the championship. And we know that Muscat is capable of doing that. Dean Vella is also a sim racer driver that you need to be very aware of. He did an incredible last lap overtake last race. And he established himself as one prime contender. Yes, he is a bit down in points. He is in 4th position in the championship. But he still can win it. Everything can happen in this 1-hour sort of long race. It's not a sprint race, 29 minutes, 30 minutes late. It's a 1-hour race. It's long. It's going to be tough for the sim racers. And strategy will play a key role in the whole race.
Actually, I would allow me to add that, yes, this is the first time I'm here. But I've been following this Malta National GT3 Championship, and being also a sim racer, I fully agree with what Edwin said. Like, it's still, there's no definite racer who we can say that he won the championship or he will the championship. Of course, this is a tough race. 1 hour, it's long, but it's not that long. I mean, there are longer races in sim racing. But yes, we have a Maltese saying. I won't say it because otherwise our foreigners won't understand it. But the race is till the end. So we have to see how these guys will qualify. We have to see what they will do during the race. I mean, the slightest of mistakes can mean you're either out of the race or, for example, you lose that important place, which can also mean losing the championship.
And we are also we're not forgetting, but we didn't mention the other drivers that are not contending for the championship. For example, Sheldon Scott Muscat. He also races really well in tire conservation mode. He is there. He was always there, a bit further back. But when the occasion is there for him, from P4 or P5, he can jump up to P3 or P2.
Exactly.
By others either doing mistakes or finishing their tires up, he was always there. And with this 1 hour long race, and obviously pit stops that will happen, obviously they're not mandatory, but they will happen. And he can, for example, can do a strategy with one stop,
exactly,
less than the others. So I think he will play a key role as well, deciding the whole championship.
Definitely. This particular race, is, as you said, Edwin, they have to manage the tires, the pit stop. Yes, I agree 100% that it will play today a crucial role in this race, because definitely you have to, it's a tactical, it's a strategy. I mean, we see it also in real life during Formula One, even the last race. We know how pit stops played quite an impact on the final result.
There aren't much drivers, but if they are close together, traffic is crucial as well. If one pits before the other, he could end up in between the other drivers.
Yes, definitely. We have to, well, we'll see how these drivers will eventually manage their race. We all agree over here that this will be quite a tough race tactically, strategically. The pit stop, when they will pit, who will pit first, who will follow. So definitely, yes, we'll have to see. I mean, I'm excited actually. I mean, it's like I'm racing, but I'm really excited to see how this national championship will come to an end today.
And the top three in the championship will have a really test on themselves and show what they can do. Either Muscat or as Bernard Vella and Mercia, they can also show us what they're made of in this 1 hour race, not just half an hour. It's a race of, it's a test of mental and also concentration. They need to be fully focused, especially at turn 1 during the start of the race. So we have to see also from those three guys who will be also conservative during the start, not to damage the car, not to flat spot a tire. Those key factors, I mean, for me, I'm not a sim racer like you. I interpret the start of the race differently than those guys over there. They are fighting for a championship. Maybe Muscat does a lightning start and he goes for it. And obviously Vella or Mercia can hold a little bit back maybe. It's an intriguing final race.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know, yes, whether because we're talking quite a lot. So.
No, for sure. I agree with everything you guys said. I'm sure all the racers are going to give their utmost tonight. They're all amazing racers. I'm very excited to see who's going to be the winner. I'd just like to ask Ricardo, what inspired you to start sim racing?
Well, as I said, it was quite a long time ago. We were a group of friends, and there was a game. It was called, I think, Turbo Sliders. It's a two-dimensional game where you see the cars from on top, like going around that track.
On which console was it?
PC.
On computer. A PC, okay.
Yeah, and we also actually made our tracks. So we raced the famous tracks. But I remember, I have to mention Jeffrey Camilleri, he also designed a Valletta circuit. We even did a race around the streets of Valletta. Believe me, it was very challenging. I mean, we raced with the controllers, or there are even some of us who used to race with the keyboard, because basically you have to turn the car just left, accelerate, decelerate, or brake, and just no pit stops, nothing. But of course, then we moved on to, I mean, like the platform which we are using today. It's the R-Factor platform. I like it very much, R-Factor. There are many other platforms for racing, but I usually stick to R-Factor or Assetto Corsa. If you had to ask me, I'm making the questions myself.
Go ahead.
If you had to ask me which type of car you prefer, I prefer more open wheelers. Even though this is the GT3 championship, it's the least favorite. I prefer open wheelers, but
is there a reason why?
I think it has to do with the view. I prefer not having to sort of look through a cockpit when racing. I prefer having an open view. Also, I also race using VR goggles. So I don't race on a triple screen setup. So when I'm wearing my goggles of VR, so I have a quite good view of the track where I'm racing. But I mean, that's a personal preference. other drivers will prefer other setups.
And do you follow any other motorsport?
Yes, as I said earlier, I do follow Formula One. In fact, the first thing I said here to Edwin, he's showing a particular logo, I would say. It's not the team I support. I support, shall I say, the home team at Monza. Yes, I follow Formula One, but actually, if I have the time, I do follow even other sports like MotoGP or even the GT Championship, whatever there is around. And also, apart from motorsport, I do follow, of course, football, since I collaborate with the local television and do coverage of the local Premier League. But basically, yes, usually it's football and any motorsport related activities. Could be also power boats or whatever there is.
And that's also the kind of material you cover as a sport journalist?
Yeah, basically, as I said, mostly locally, I have to say locally. It's football. We do sometimes also do programs related to Formula One. There are also some local races which we also cover and do features and commentate. And well, basically that's it as regards local sports. I mean, we only do local. I mean, we don't do foreign. Well, the only time actually, we were chatting outside before coming here. I remember going to do a coverage abroad when we had one of the local drivers, Keith Camilleri, who used to compete in the Formula 4 Championship. I remember I had gone to the Mugello circuit, and it was a very interesting experience. Funny enough, till now, I had never the opportunity to go to a Formula 1 race weekend. That is something.
I used to commentate on TVM for Keith Camilleri for the Maltese team there. Yes. I used to commentate it on TVM. Me, Chris Kauki, there was also Simon as well. Yes. There was good racing. It was good racing there as well. Formula 4. They're sort of a baby Formula 1. They're all fitted with Abarth engines, Fiat Abarth engines.
That particular...
that series only.
That series was...
with a 1.4 liter turbo. And they're fast. Those guys are fast as well. Let's not forget, Lance Stroll.
Exactly.
He was the champion at that time that Keith Camilleri was racing. Yes. He was the champion. Now he's driving for Aston Martin Formula 1. Exactly. So... It's like a baby Formula 1. But it was good racing as well,
It was, as you said, yes, Edwin, very good racing. And as well, I was actually happy that I saw Lance Stroll over there. So, as you said, now he's into Formula 1. So, well, I can say that from that time, he was the top driver. Exactly. So, no wonder he's into Formula 1.
He dominated every sessions and every race. He dominated.
So thank you to Ricardo and Edwin. Back to Kieran and Nicholas.
Thank you very much, Yaz, as the tension builds towards the upcoming qualifying session. And, well, it's going to be pretty close, I can tell you that right now. Jason Muscat, fresh off the back of his first win of the championship. You've got Mikael Mercer with 3 wins so far this season, but only one other podium that's not been a win. Others have been just picking up points here or there. Then you've got Bernard Vella, who it seems every other race seems to be a podium. 3 podiums in the first 3 races. Finished just outside of the, finished about 6th place in round number 4 there. So a bit of an off day for him there. But, I mean, these mixed results have, well, to pardon the pun, mixed up these results.
I think the biggest thing here, Kieran, is the fact that Jason Muscat has got the biggest run of consistency of all the competitors here on the Malta National GT3 Championship for 2021, fueled by Enemed. To be honest with you, you know, he's had a 3rd at the opening round, then it was a 4th, then it was a second, then it was a fourth, then it was 2 second places. Obviously, round 3 was when he had the 5-second penalty, having crossed the road in first place. So he could have had 2 wins, and that could have changed the balance a little bit, because that would have put Michael Mercier on 45 points, and Muscat would have been on 52 coming into this round. So we could have had an even bigger point spread between the top 3. But luckily enough for us, for those people also watching at home, it's made things a little bit more interesting. And I have to say, the work by the team at World Pro Racing with Justin Mifsud and Adrian Figalo, I mean, the state-of-the-art facility is absolutely brilliant. And I understand, Kieran, all 9 competitors are in their sim rigs ready to go racing tonight.
They are indeed, and as you were saying, how Jason Muscat with that win last time around, taking him to the top, it could have been even further had that round 3 win have stood without the 5-second penalty. It could be entirely different, because Bernard Vella got penalised for jumping the start last time out, so that cost him a good run of points. He managed to pick up 4, and those are going to be 4 important points come the end of the championship, but might be 4 points gained, could be in a case of 6 points lost, so we'll have to see how that goes for tonight's racing action. Also worth noting that there's a couple of drivers in this field, Alex, that have no sim rig at home. The only time they can have a chance to practice is at the World Pro Racing Simulation Centre. So the drivers of those to watch out for: Gianluigi Corrao, Andrea Rizzo and Colin Foster. And in fact, for all of those, the battle for 7th place still is up for grabs. Gianluigi Corrao and Andrea Rizzo both on 14 points, and Colin Foster technically still in the running on 5 points. But, you know, it's been a sensational season for them all, considering the fact that when they started this, they might not have had the experience that other drivers around them have to find out who the fastest Maltese sim driver is. But they've grown into it as the season's gone on, and they've got closer and closer to the times at the top as the season's passed. It's been fantastic to see.
I think also one of the good things about the sim racing community is that everyone is a family. Everyone gives guidance and tips and tricks, and so Gianluigi, Andrea and Colin will have some of the most prominent Maltese sim racers to discuss things with. I mean, Sheldon Scott Muscat, for instance, he's been racing for GT Omega RPM Esports in multiple different championships. I've commentated on him at the SimGrid World Cup, VCO World Cup, you know, in Sprint Cup in previous months leading up to this. Kirsten Abaya has been in there, Dean Vela. I think the first time I came across Michael Mercier was actually when I did my first ever GT Sport broadcast here on World Pro Racing, and he won the event in a Nissan GTR Nismo. Jason Muscat and Bernard Vella this is the first time I've come across them. Dean Vella also has been in quite a few championships here on World Pro Racing. I think the most recent I saw him in was the USF 2000 series when I was working alongside Chris Buxton. But yeah, I think realistically, looking at this field, you know, for those wondering what the format is tonight, okay, we've had half-hour practice session, 15-minute qualifying, a warm-up, and then it was normally a 30-minute race, but we've doubled the ante tonight, and that's what's really exciting. Monza might be full throttle, but as Edwin and Ricardo very rightly pointed out, anyone makes a mistake, you've got to look at strategy. And I liked how the fact that Edwin literally said, well, what if Sheldon Scott Muscat gets the lightning start? He finds himself in 2nd position through the Rettifilio. We all know that turn 1, the Rettifilio chicane at Monza, can cause problems, but it can also be a bit of a lifeline for someone that you might not necessarily expect. And who's not to say that Gianluigi Corrao, Andrea Rizzo and Colin Foster could factor in? There's every chance, because it's times are for show, points are to go, as they say in racing, and that's very much the case here for the final round of the championship.
Yes, it is indeed. And at the Monza circuit, it's just a historic piece of track. These 3.6 miles, I should say. It's much more than 3.6 kilometers, but a sheen of water all over the track. And this is our first, I think, chance of rain, or rain on the track, in the entire series. So this is going to pretty much shake things up. Normally when we come to Monza, we normally think of that low downforce, taking as much downforce off the car as possible without compromising your run through the medium and high speed corners, such as the Curva de Lesmos and the Ascari chicane. But now, Alex, it's a completely different ball game. The fact that there's water on the track does that encourage drivers to maybe put a little bit more aero on? Or do they try and adjust the setup and say, look, we still need less downforce, but we're going to have to be mindful of these treacherous conditions?
Yeah, well, one of the biggest things is going to be the visibility factor here, Kieran, because coming out of Parabolica, if you've got 9 cars line astern going down the start-finish straight, it's a fixed setup. So these drivers are going to have to work with the tools that they have at their disposal. And this is where it's about the driver's skill that becomes paramount above everything else. Because with water on the track, it's going to be, you're going to have to extend your braking distances, you're going to have your eyeballs on stalks, let's be completely honest. And realistically, at this kind of track, when the wet weather hits, it completely turns it upside down on its head. And that's what we're going to see tonight.
Yeah, and a legendary start-finish straight, isn't it? Down towards the Rettifilio chicane. And as you said, Alex, it's a very tight turns 1 and 2 going in towards the very first lap of the race. And from a standing start, that's going to make it even tighter down there. So you might think if you're in the midfield, there might be a chance that you'll have that door-to-door contact. But trying to pick out the very first braking point on cold brakes, on colder tyres down towards turn 1, always going to be a tricky one. And that's before you add the layer of water we've got on the track.
I mean, especially when traditionally GT3 racing is done in rolling start formations like the GT Challenge Europe, and now we head to the track. We're coming into the last 10 minutes of free practice, and it's Michael Mercier that leads the way on a 1:47.355. There's Andrea Rizzo, currently on an outlap, but currently is only less than 2 seconds behind off of the number 11. All drivers using exactly the same weapons of choice. In the words of Fatboy Slim, the McLaren 720S GT3, the M840 twin-turbo V8 4-litre engine, producing well over 700 Newton meters of torque. And as you can see here, we've got picture-in-picture. There is Andrea at the sim rig, and taking a nice, actually wide sweeping line to cut through towards the right-hand wall on the start-finish straight. And is now on a hot lap, so let's go on a hot lap with Andrea Rizzo. So full throttle, you're going to be pushing 6th gear, at least 240, down the gears into first, through into the Rettifilio chicane, or Varianti del Rettifilio. Put the power down. Don't, on these wet weather conditions, you don't want to push it down too hard, the throttle, because the first thing you're going to do is spool up the rear tyres, and that could put you sideways. Through Cova Grande, increasing the speed, probably hitting around about 5th gear at 200 plus kilometres an hour. Now into Variante della Roggia, turns 4 and 5. Hard on the brakes once again, but you've got to really nail the apex. Avoid the sausage curbs as well. And then it's the 2 Curva di Lesmos, turn 6 and 7. Down by 1.1 seconds in sector 1, but still, nevertheless, you can see how hard Andrea Rizzo is working behind the wheel in the picture-in-picture. It's not easy in these wet weather conditions, and again, a little bit of correction there from the 08 McLaren. Now he's going down Curva del Seraglio, which then heads to the Variante Ascari, underneath the bridge here. And through into the chicane. And these wet weather conditions proving to be much of a handful, especially for Andrea Rizzo. And now it's the run down to Parabolica. And a warm welcome to all our viewers on both motorsport.tv and the eSports Television Network, joining us for the final round of the season. Now it's down a couple of gears, maybe to 3rd, through into the first Parabolica. And let the car run wide, let the car do the work, and then accelerate out of the corner. Andrea Rizzo currently 8th in free practice with 6 minutes and 48 on the clock to go. Will he improve? Well, he doesn't. That's a 1:53, but coming out on an outlap there. Very much the case there, Kieran, where these wet weather conditions are going to be proving a handful, and even you could say that Michael Mercier could have some dramas of his own to sort of get going. And even that, a 1:53.2. You know, that lap time from Michael, a 1:47.355. Pretty good so far.
Pretty good so far, but you've got to remember as well, whilst there is water on the track, it's pretty sunny at the Monza circuit right now. So how quickly is that water going to shift from this line here? It is, of course, this practice session. So obviously the drivers will be getting used to these wet weather conditions and making sure that if they make the mistakes, they're going to make them now. But that's an element that the drivers will have to be thinking about coming into this is, well, it's wet for now, it's wet weather's for now, but we've now got to try and sort of work out, well, when is it going to be ready for dry tyres, and when is it going to be ready enough for that changeover, and is it going to be in time for qualifying? We've also got down live in the studio in Malta, we have Simon, Edwin and Ricardo down in the studio. Let's throw over to them. Simon, it's wet in qualifying, but it's really, really sunny out there.
Hello, Kieran. Thank you very much for having us. Yeah, it's our first wet race of the series. It's going to be interesting to see, well, first wet session of the series. It'll be interesting to see how the drivers manage it, how it changes as the weather changes. And yeah, it's an interesting start.
My guess is this, since there are 5 minutes left in practice as well, I think the track is getting wetter as well, Simon. As the fastest time is 1:47.355, right? The drivers are struggling to get close to that time. For example, look at Bernard Vella. He's already 1.1 seconds off through the first sector. That's a lot of time lost over there. So my best guess is no, the track is not drying up for now. I think it's getting wetter actually. And we'll see what's going to happen in qualifying and the race as well. Because for now, my best guess is that it is getting well. Let's see Bernard Vella through the second sector as he rounds up that McLaren under the bridge and to the Variante Ascari. Let's see, it's already 2.2 seconds off through the second sector. That means to me that the track is not getting dry, it's simply getting wetter actually.
Yeah, definitely. I have to agree with you, Edwin. I'm looking at the times, and yes, it seems that the drivers cannot do a quicker time, which means exactly what you were saying, that the rain has been pouring down over and over. The track definitely won't get any drier, so the driver in this case, Mercia, was lucky that he made that time, that good time, because it will be very extremely difficult for the other drivers to manage such a quick time around this track.
But obviously, you know, the session that matters is qualifying, which comes up next, and then obviously points are only given in the race. So it'll be interesting to see how the rain affects those sessions. If, as Edwin says, the rain only gets harder, it's the drivers who set their laps right at the beginning of the session that are really going to benefit from it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to pick the right moment actually, which I think right now the best moment is in qualifying is as soon as the lights go green. You have to go out and do a lap. And because you never know, the rain might get even worse actually.
Well, if it stops raining, then it's something I would say totally different.
Of course.
Because eventually, as they go around the track will get drier, for obvious reasons, and the drivers which will go out at a later stage, which is, again, it's a risk, because, I mean,
for sure.
if you wait, the rain might increase, but if it stops, then I think one should wait actually, so that the track would eventually dry up, so that you can get a quicker qualifying time.
Kieran, you obviously have experience racing in all esports, especially in the rain. My apologies. How would you tackle a session like this, where you're not really sure how it's going to be at the end of the session as it was at the beginning?
Well, my experience is head up to the commentary box. It's much safer. You get to make a nice, easy decision to stay in the box. No, it's always going to be very, very difficult to try and get used to these wet weather conditions. As Alex was saying in the pre-build-up, then you've got to realise that there's going to be longer braking distances. The car's not going to behave as you want it to. It's going to be very slippery. The car might try and snap on you at certain points. And where the car's pretty stable, normally through a corner like Parabolica, it now becomes a very treacherous corner. The curbs are also going to be slippery as well. The paint on them makes them extra slippery. So you've got to try and get away from that habit in the dry of attacking the curves as much as possible and really approaching them with a sense of caution. I mean, Alex, I think I've made the wise decision of heading to the commentary box anyway.
That makes two of us there, Kieran, because I actually spotted that Michael Mercier actually went wide at the Lesmos behind Bernard Vella. And, when Michael Mercier is also struggling for times because, okay, as Edwin said, 1 minute 47.355, he got in there quickly and got that lap time. But the biggest thing now is that he did a 1:53 in the last 10 minutes. So all of these drivers are struggling. I mean, Kirsten Abaye there in the number 3 McLaren, also struggling. And one of the biggest things that I've noticed in this session is that even when McLarens are following each other, as there goes, that looks to be Bernard Veller, I think, that just went off, going through the Lesmo, and has taken one of the braking marker boards with him as well in the process. Kirsten Abaye has decided to go rally crossing in the McLaren. Probably might have just been overcorrecting there, just trying to get the car back on the tarmac. But one of the other things is that if these drivers start following each other and those wipers are not on, visibility will be at a premium. And I've known of one good friend of mine, Ross McGregor, who for one particular race, well, he is Scottish, so this will explain everything right here. He decided for a completely 90-minute wet race that he would have no wipers on at all, and he still managed to get a P5 in the race. So sometimes it can be down to how the direct drive feedback is coming through the actual where the steering wheel is. You know, so you'll have the direct drive hub, and then bit of a Woking drift there from Kirsten Abaye as we're actually we've got to check it out for the session. That was definitely a clean up on aisle 3 there moment for Kirsten Abaye, I'm afraid, who's currently P4. There's Sheldon Scott Muscat, but yeah, Michael Mercier hasn't really done himself any disjustice whatsoever, because he's currently top of the timesheets with both fellas behind, and the top 3 covered by just over 0.2 of a second. And it's been really interesting. I mean, still, I have to give credit to the likes of Gianluigi Corrao, Andrea Rizzo and Colin Foster to be within 5 seconds at the very, very least. I think it was Andrea that was within 2 seconds of Mikhail. You can just see how ultra competitive that the drivers that don't have a sim rig at home are able to come into the welcoming, comforting arms of World Pro Racing's lovely facility and use state-of-the-art equipment, have technical assistance on standby, and be able to race competitively. That's what this championship is about. It's not just about the competitive nature, but it's also to showcase new talents that we could see as forces to reckon with in the months and years to come.
That's very true, and trying to find Malta's next fastest driver. Of course, the prize on the line was a ticket to the FIA Motorsport Games before they're unfortunately postponed for the year, but there will be prizes for the top drivers for sure, including cash prizes for the top 3 drivers in the championship. So everything's still to play for the drivers here to be crowned the Malta National GT3 Champion 2021, fueled by Enemed. Qualifying's not too far away, and that was a pretty good practice session for our drivers because they got a bit of dry running, a bit of wet running as well. There'll be a bit of fuel simulation, race simulation, qualifying simulation. They'll have tried to throw everything at that wet weather session to see how the cars are going to be behaving, just as a worst case scenario.
It's always the case that you've got to, if you have that mixture of weather conditions during a session, you know, you could find that Michael Mercier was on full fuel. That's probably why he was running at the 153s. The same could have been said for Bernard and Dean Veller, along with Jason Muscat. Sheldon Scott Muscat was in there in the top 5. I think realistically, I think now we're going to get a real taste of what's to come for the finale, because it looks like we're heading trackside, and I think qualifying's about to get underway. And would you believe it, we go from wet to dry at the snap of our fingers.
Oh, absolutely. So all that wet weather running for those drivers, well, it might come back. You just never know. We'll have to wait and see. As there's the number 4 car of Dean Veller just trying to, Bernard Veller making his way now onto the back straight now towards the Parabolica. Just a last minute warming up of the tyres then before he makes his way in towards the Parabolica. Second in the championship right now. 2 points behind our championship leader, Jason Muscat. 2 wins so far this season for Bernard Veller, and he makes his way towards the line to start his flying lap. And, well, that looks like a man who's not under any pressure whatsoever, Alex. He's approaching this lap time fully focused.
I'm going to say one particular phrase here. You're going to resonate with this one, Kieran, and I think Simon, Edwin and Ricardo will probably be the same. It's like a duck at the moment, calm under the surface, but paddling like heck underneath. You can see feverishly how quickly he was just controlling the McLaren 720S GT3. Produces around 550 brake horsepower, over 700 Newton meters of torque. Currently, a few drivers in real-life racing, the likes of Ollie Milroy, Ben Barnicoat, amongst others, and you can just see how committed Bernard Vella was going through the De La Roggia chicane into the first of the two Lesmos. Very tight on the apex and allows the car to drift wide to the left coming out of it. So very, very good composure. Nice and clean through the second Lesmo. Oh, but a bit of running into the gravel on the left-hand side. But still, nevertheless, Bernard Vella kept the foot planted in. And that really does showcase how quickly you can be on the limit of adhesion and quite past it. He's now going to go through into Ascari, so just watch. He just coaxes the car in. Car tries to step out on the back on the left-hand side, going through the midway point of Ascari, but now he's going to pull the car over to the left and then through into Parabolica. This is probably the only real chance that the drivers are going to have a real bit of rest. And by rest, I mean just a moment to take a couple of deep breaths. He's allowing the car to drift wide through Parabolica. So Bernard Vella is going to set the benchmark, and it was a 147.355 from Murcia so that looks to be, it was an outlap, but it was still a pretty hot one there. Michael Murcia now comes across the line. A 147.487 puts him on provisional pole, and instantly he escapes into pit lane, but that's a pretty good benchmark to beat. And Sheldon Scott Muscat puts in a time that is just over 6.5 tenths of a second. There's Dean Vella, currently 4th in the championship standings on 42 points. He does have a chance. It's not mathematical. It's pretty much figurative, not just figuratively either, Kieran. It's literal that this guy could be the one that upsets the apple cart if the top three have dramas here at Monza in the 1 hour race.
Yes, the only thing standing in his way though is he's got to do something. It's mandatory to do something he hasn't done before in the Multinational GT3 Championship, and that's take the full 10 points. A win and nothing less will put him in the running, and even then, it's not going to put him in control. This needs to be a win for Dean Vella. So well, how do you approach that? I mean, is that a lot of pressure to go for the win, or is it a case of, well, if I get the win, fantastic. If I don't, then I've put in my best effort so far?
I think he's got to look at it from a more of an optimistic perspective. You know, he knows what he's got to do. He knows that he's got to try and put it a little bit on the line because he's got nothing to lose. He's got everything to gain. But the top three are the ones that are really going to feel the pressure cooker situation. It's an hour race. Edwin was very, very concise when he said, you know, you could make a mistake. You've got to work on the strategy. And that's something that I very much agree with Edwin on that particular aspect. Because, you know, you don't just see strategy in GT3 racing. From my own travels as a karting commentator, you have the same aspect. You know, some drivers will have pace straight off the bat, but then there'll be those other ones that will be, you know, keeping a little bit in reserve. And that's something you've got to do here at Monza. You can't go all guns blazing, fire up all 8 cylinders on that McLaren and go for broke. And now here we are with Michael Murcia as Bernard Vella has gone provisional pole with 9 minutes of the session left to go, or 1 minute 47.181. Murcia is now going to go on to his second hot lap. He's currently P2 in the battle for pole position, 3 tenths off. Kirsten Navarro showing good pace as well in the number 3, running at the top 3 positions, 0.860 off there. And I just wanted to throw over to Edwin at the moment. I mean, Edwin, qualifying's really, really important. We saw in the practice session that everyone may have been running on full fuel loads, but here in the dry, it's a very different proposition altogether, isn't it?
Yeah, you need to, I think you need to attack all the corners that are available. While you were saying that as well, I just noticed that Muscat actually now posted a time which is almost a second slower than Bernard Vella. That says a lot to me because we only have 8 minutes of qualifying left. It's either he has something in reserve, like we said before, like I said before, either you try to reserve a bit, conserve a bit of either energy and focusedness to focus solely on the race. But nevertheless, 1 second away from Bernard Vella, that's not a good time for Muscat. He's not going to get pole position with 0.951 seconds away adrift from Bernard Vella. Bernard Vella, I think, is doing an amazing job with having had the previous race, a disastrous previous race actually, because he had the penalty for the jump starts. That's a disastrous race. But with all that said and done, he has posted a time which is provisional pole right now, and that says a lot. That says that the guy is determined. It's a statement there that 0.3 of a seconds away from Mergia. So that's an incredible time.
Well, as you said that,
exactly,
Mercia puts in a 1:46.999
exactly.
and goes nearly 2 tenths quicker than Bernard Vella. That was pretty much on cue there, Edwin.
Exactly.
Ricardo, handing over to you. It's been rather interesting because now we've got Michael Mercia, we've then got Bernard and Dean Vella rounding out the top 3, and Kirsten Abaya rounding out the top 4, covered by 7 tenths. It looks like this qualifying session is going to go down to the wire with 6.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, it's. I was looking at the times as you exactly, and I noticed Mercia's current partial pole position with 1:46.9, and I am also seeing the times, looking at Jason Muscat's time, which it is even now. It seems, of course, it appears to be slower because we have a faster qualifying time. I know personally Muscat. I know he's a good driver, and actually I don't know what's cooking, to say it like that. He's either trying to build up concentration, but I think that it's important that one tries to get pole, unless being such a tight race, when one looks at the points in the championship, you sort of have to think more and try to sort of forecast whatever can happen in the front rows. But we all know that being at the front is always an advantage. Actually, being in pole is always an advantage. So that's my take, I would say, for now.
Yeah. I mean, but Kieran, we've just gotten the top 5 rounded out by Kirsten Abaya as Sheldon Scott Muscat goes P4. It's really heating up now, isn't it?
It really is, and top 5 separated by literally just under 1 second. Kirsten Abaya 0.999 off of the top time so far by Bernard Vella. There's Jason Muscat, who's 1.4 off the pace at the moment, but he's on an outlap right now. And as Edwin said, we're not expecting Muscat to be in 6th place, 1.4 off the provisional pole time, so maybe he is holding something back in reserve. And I mean, I want to hand over to Simon because I think he feels a bit left out. Simon, this qualifying session could be shaping up in the next 4 minutes. I mean, any predictions for pole position yet?
I think it's really difficult to say. You know, as you were saying about Jason Muscat, I don't think we've seen these drivers' fastest laps yet. Judging from practice and what they've been showing so far, I think Bernard Vella or Michael Mercia would be the safest shouts. But we've seen in earlier races that the qualifying sessions can literally have 5 drivers within the same 10. So I think in the last 3 minutes, drivers are going to get faster and those times are going to fall.
Always good to see. So that's the predictions made by Simon. We'll see if they come true in the next 3.5 minutes, or just over 3.5 minutes. There's Jason Muscat attacking the Roger chicane, and you see how hard he is trying to fight the wheel just to try and keep control of his McLaren. And through the first Lesmo we go. He's gone green through the first sector, which means that's his personal best so far. Now making his way through the second Lesmo, getting so close to the grass on entry there. And there's a little bit of camber going through the corner, some of it with you, some of it slightly against you, especially as you try and get onto the power and onto the curb on the left hand side. Underneath the old banking then, as we make our way towards Ascari, this left which really challenges that shift of weight balance throughout the car then, as you really have to try and hang on there if you've not quite got the corner right, or if you just understeer very slightly. It's an orange time through sector 2, which means that's not Jason Muscat's best time. He now makes his way up towards Parabolica, the 11th turn of Monza then. Onto the anchors he will go and try and steering that car in, maybe a little bit of trail braking going on as well. Finding the apex, back onto the power he will go, and on towards the start-finish line. We'll have to wait and see what sort of lap time this will be for Jason Muscat. Currently 1.4 seconds off that provisional pole. He brings it down to just over 1 second at 1:47.747. Still has him in 6th place, but a lot closer than he was before, Alex.
Yeah, personal best for Jason Muscat in both the first and final sectors. And he's got an opportunity of having another 2 flying laps. I would say that if you're going to do a run here, you're probably going to do an out lap, 2 hot laps, and then do an in lap. Especially if you haven't got enough fuel in the McLaren to do so. Colin Foster finding himself... I mean, credit with Colin Foster in the number 11 McLaren. Just under 2.65 seconds off of the number 4 of Bernard Vella, who's on provisional pole by an absolutely massive margin. Nearly 3/10 over Michael Mercier. So the battle line's being drawn as we head into the last minute and 3/4 of this session. I think one of the things that you've got to be in qualifying, apart from being aggressive, you've also got to be very, very cool. Now, some of these drivers will know how to use certain techniques in order to get themselves geared up. And one of the other things that you really need to know is that if you're a bit stiff on your upper body, that can be quite unconducive to how you perform. So, you know, like if your forearms are sort of like very, very tight in terms of the muscle fibers, you know, your body is not going to be reacting in the way that it should do. Like, say, if your shoulders and your trapezius muscles by your neck are very, very relaxed. You can see here Gianluigi Corral in the 0-2, a personal best in Sector 2 for the number 2 car as he goes through into Parabolica. You can see just the ease of movement there on the steering wheel. Knows exactly what the car's doing and is catering to his own driving style. And now he's going to come across the line. Currently P8 at the moment, a 1:48.082, and that puts him ahead of Andrea Rizzo.
Yes, and that's a great battle there for 7th place in the championship, or at least will shape up to be, because Corral is, 7th place when they head into it. Both on the same amount of points, although it is Andrea Rizzo going into this round who has that countback advantage. He does have 4 points at the last round, which was his best finish of the season so far, which calculates to 6th place last time out. That will go in his favour if it has to go to countback. Here comes Andrea Rizzo towards the line and now sets a 47.6, puts himself up into 6th place ahead of Kirsten Abea. That is a fantastic lap time from Andrea Rizzo. He does have time for another lap, but does he have the fuel to do it? No, he doesn't. He goes straight on at the Rettifilio chicane and comes back to the pit lane. Jason Muscat, meanwhile, well, this is going to be an important lap time for him. Our championship leader, 4th place right now, 2nd row of the grid. Make that 3rd row of the grid as the number 9 car of Dean Vella now puts himself up into 4th place. With the number 4 car of Bernard Vella, 46.7 still the time to beat. Mercia no longer on the track, so can't challenge for that. Sheldon Scott Muscat up into 3rd place. It's been a challenging championship for him, but fair play to him. He's put it now currently on 3rd place. How about Jason Muscat, though? Again, green through Sector 1, a personal best through there. Orange through Sector 2, not a personal best through there. Now through the final sector and in towards the final corner at Parabolica. This might be one of the most important laps Jason Muscat has had around Monza as he heads his way towards the start-finish line to complete his flying lap here at Monza. Is it enough for an improvement? He does improve his time, but not his position, and our championship leader will be starting down in 5th place with Bernard Vella, 2nd in the championship, on pole position for this final round. Well, championship implications will be adjusted for sure, and of course that means the driver that's 2nd in the championship, Bernard Vella, taking the pole position. The driver 3rd in the championship, Michael Mercia, starts 2nd on that front row. But our championship leader, Jason Muscat, starting in 5th place. He's got it all to do in the hour race, hasn't he, Alex?
He's got it. Jason Muscat's got to play it safe going through Rettifilio for the first time. You can't put all your eggs into one basket. You've got to sort of be strategic in the initial couple of laps. As you said earlier, they're going to be on cold brakes, cold tyres. They're going to have a formation lap, and then they're going to be standing still for a little bit of time whilst the grid assembles. And that's where the driver's on the front, so this could compromise more than anybody, Bernard Vella and Michael Mercier. That gives an advantage because obviously Jason Muscat's car won't have been sitting on the grid for as long. So you have to look at it that Jason might be kicking himself going, that was a really bad lap. But then he has to think about it, saying they might be at the front of the grid, but it's at the front of the grid where sometimes you don't want to be because havoc can happen there too.
Absolutely. Well, let's get the reactions down in the studio at Malta then with Simon, Ricardo and Edwin. What did you make of that?
Thank you, Kieran. That was an amazing qualifying session. I think it's going to be really interesting now going into the race, seeing how, as you were saying, the first lap goes, the first, 5-10 minutes, when these cars are going to be very close together. It's going to be their best opportunities to fight and make up ground. And it's an hour-long race. We can't discount midway through this race when they're going to start making pit stops and having to test their strategies and seeing who's on the better one. Ricardo and Edwin, how do you see this race going? How do you think it might pan out?
I have to, agree fully with Alex. He made a very, very valid point. I mean, when you start at the front and you make that formation lap and you warm up your tires, and by the time that the other drivers which are behind you in the grid, when you get aligned, for example, the first 2 rows get aligned, by the time you get to your position, yes, indeed, the tires will, for those of which are at the front, they will get colder. So this might have been also a tactic for Jason.
And if you're Jason Muscat, you're going to be having the slowest formation lap of your life. So Bernard Vella and Mika Magia are on that grid for as long as you possibly can make them wait.
You need to, first of all, let's, I'm going to talk here as a reporter side. That was a dismal lap from Muscat. That was not a lap that he's capable of. We know what he's capable of, because when he runs away in the lead, he runs away. He just gets 5 seconds off the other guys. So that was a dismal lap. That's a disastrous qualifying. To start in P5 in the midfield. Yes, okay, the other, the pole sitter and second place will get their tires cold, and brakes will cool down as well. But nevertheless, that doesn't show the talent that Jason Muscat is capable of. He is leading the championship. He should be right there in first place. Otherwise, you cannot stand there with a lap that is almost a second behind the pole sitter. Having said that as well, for Bernard Vella, this is an incredible chance for him to shine and win and try to win the race. It's an hour-long race. We know about it. And I think Bernard Vella knows about that. That's why he posted the time a second faster than Jason Muscat, because that was an incredible pole lap.
For sure. Now, while we wait for the race to start, we're going to cut to Davinia, who's out in our sim racing room, who's going to be interviewing some of the drivers.
Hello, everybody. I'm here from the Monte Cristo Estates. With me here, I have Michael Mercia, who came in P2 in the qualifying. How are you feeling?
Quite happy with the lap today. It's going to be a tough race, so at least I have a good starting position, so we'll see from there what happens.
What are the maybe some tricks that you are going to do in the next race, or are they a bit secretive?
No, it's just try to take care of the tires. It's a long race, and try to take care of the fuel as well. It's quite close with doing a pit stop or not, so try to see not to put extra pressure on myself, so we'll see how it goes from there.
So are you confident in the racetrack?
Yeah, I think so. It's a favorite track of mine, so I hope that I can get away with the win today.
Great, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Davinia. Interesting to hear from Megamic, how he's looking forward to the race, what he's going to be, how he's going to attack it. Edwin, what do you think in Ricardo?
Well, okay, I go first. Well, this happens to be also my favorite track, and as much as if you're good at it, you will have an advantage, the slightest mistakes in some of the chicanes could be very painful. I don't like making predictions, or because there's always the commentator's curse.
Definitely.
So I would like to be sort of fair with all the drivers.
Of course, of course.
And I think it will be a very interesting race tonight. I mean, stakes are high. There's the championship. I can imagine how excited all the drivers are. It could be also that the drivers, I mean, Edwin was saying that that was a disastrous lap by Jason, but it could be that also psychologically. I mean, he might have something in his head right now, so he might not be so concentrated.
For sure, definitely. I agree with you completely. I believe we're going to cut back to Davinia again, where she's going to be interviewing another driver.
I'm here with Bernard De Vella, who came in P1 in qualifying. How are you feeling now?
Honestly, a bit nervous. Obviously, it's the last round of the championship, everything to play for. I'm seeing the other players, it's raining, so it's going to be difficult. We'll see. Hopefully we'll survive turn 1.
I was going to ask you, how are you, do you think that you have some edge around this racetrack?
I qualified P1, so till now I'm fast, so we'll see what will come in the race.
Okay, best of luck, thank you.
Thank you.
So hi, I'm here now with Jason Muscat. Hi, how are you, Jason?
Good, thank you.
What position did you end up in the qualifying?
5th, I believe.
Okay, so do you feel some pressure maybe that you're going in not on the first few positions?
Yeah, it's not going to be easy turn 1, especially I don't know if it's going to be raining or not, so that will be a big factor as well, but it's going to be a long race. So most important is not to make any mistakes, be consistent, and then we'll see where we end up at the end.
So do you think there's some disadvantage that it will be raining, perhaps?
It can be both, an advantage or disadvantage. You know, in the rain, obviously, it will be much easier to make mistakes. So we'll see.
So what's your main focus throughout this race today?
Just not making any mistakes.
That's important, so that you will win it and hopefully do your best. Obviously, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, there we have it. We have a nervous Bernard Vella and a Jason Muscat who's going to be dying to improve his position. It's going to be a fun race.
I
What do you
think
think?
Jason Muscat will pray for rain, actually, because when it rains, obviously, we know what it means. It levels even more the playing field. I mean, they are already in a level playing field because the cars are set up fixed. They're all the same. They're all on the same track. But I think I think Jason is praying for rain because it makes it even more challenging for the others. Even for him, but even for the others. Bernard Vella is in the best place right now to win the race and win the championship.
Absolutely. And, you know, if it does rain, if drivers do make more mistakes than they might normally do, it could be a chance for someone in the midfield to, you know, surprisingly end up on a podium or take a win. And if that's Jason Muscat, he's going to win this championship.
Sheldon Scott Muscat always does that.
Yeah,
he
definitely.
stays there, racing hard, but he's always showing up. Either P3 or P2, while in the race he's always P5 or P6. So but it could play a big factor in the championship decider.
Kieran and Alex, the race is going to start in a few minutes. What do you think of the qualifying session and what the drivers have been saying?
Well, it's going to be a close one, isn't it? I mean, as you said, Simon, we're in for a great race over the hour. There might be drivers taking more of a risk than normal. Jason Muscat's got to really think about it because he's right in that midfield there. So really got to be careful not only about getting his own braking zone right, but he's got to be hopeful that everyone else behind him gets their braking zones right as well, heading down in towards the Retifidio chicane. But as you were saying, Alex, with Dean Vella in the mix as well, he's got the least to lose and the most to gain. And I love that shot as Davidia was talking to one of our championship contenders and our championship protagonist, Mikhail Bertia, as the drivers all gathered around having a chat. I mean, this is a championship battle, and yet the drivers just are having a chat to each other before the race starts. There's a relaxed mood around most of the drivers here.
They've really got to plateau the adrenaline because it's going to be spiking through the roof very, very shortly when they're doing the formation lap. I think any opportunity for a sim racer to get a little bit of chill time, even if it might be 30, 45 seconds, the pressure's still going to be there, the nerves are going to be kicking in, but it's when they get behind the wheel, that's when things, you know, the beats per minute and the heart rate elevates, and then the adrenaline starts spiking through the roof. You know, the hairs start standing up on the back of your neck, and you know, you get the old goosebumps. They'll be ready to go racing, and just by I've now got a virtual championship standings list now started between the top 4. So if at the moment, looking at it from this perspective, if Bernard Vella wins this ahead of Mikael Machega, he will win the title by 3 points. But that is all possibility that there could be changing depending on the weather. And whatever weather we end up at Monza, well, there we go. The drivers are being brought onto the server to start things off, and looks to be bone dry. But it's about keeping your cool, really. It looks like things are getting underway here.
We are indeed. So we're ready to go racing here for the finale here. An hour to go, and we are away. What are the starts like as they make their way on towards the Rettifido chicane for the very first time? As Bernard Vella did get a good start, but an even better start then from Mikael Merchant. But there's trouble in the background there. 3 cars caught up in an instant. Sheldon Scott Muscat being one of them. 5 cars, 6 cars turned around as well. The point is, did the likes of Kirsten Bayer and Dean Vella all make it through? There is Dean Vella. He did make it through then, coming out of the Rettifido chicane as they make their way through the Curva Grande. So Mikael Merchant then leads the way then ahead of Bernard Vella. So a great start from Merchant up into the lead then, and now Dean Vella up into 3rd place as well as they now make their way on towards the Roger chicane. And I think here the cars might be starting to slow down. All signs then that we're possibly going to go for a restart. We'll have to confirm that when we get the information. But a bit of a hectic start. We didn't even get to the braking zone there this time around, Alex, and we're going to go for that restart.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is that Jason Muscat was piggy in the middle and he got squeezed from both sides, and all of a sudden, you know, one tap can turn everything asunder, and it completely happened heading into the Rettifido. And a good call by race controller. I think they want to make sure that the start is as fair and as even as possible. We don't want a championship decided in that sort of way, shape or form, and I think it's the right call to give everyone a second chance. I mean, it's going to put the pressure on now because Machega got a brilliant start and led from Bernard Vella, and Dean Vella got his way up into 3rd place. So that, I mean, if you had had that incident and had kept the race running, Jason Muscat would have been out of the title ramifications, but it would have been a straight-out dogfight between Bernard Vella and Mikael Merchant, because it would be a case, and they are lining them up on the grid once again. So it is control, out, delete, reset. They're taped up, patched up, and they are off and away. And another good start there by Bernard Vella, but Mikael Merchant going side by side down towards the Rettifido. Jason Muscat trying to keep in with Sheldon Muscat, who's a bit to the left-hand side of him. It's going to be 3 abreast. Muscat might outbrake himself here. But, Sheldon Scott Muscat gets a little bit of an unruly door check there. And it's going to be nigh on a synchronised 3-way formation going through into the Curva Grande. But it looks like Jason Muscat has got an absolutely brilliant start, and now he's up into P3. The championship wide open, and we're less than 60 seconds into the 1-hour race.
Yeah, once again then, Mikael Merchant takes the race lead away as Sheldon Scott Muscat weaving left and right there. You're right, he did come door to door then with Jason Muscat as he makes his way now on through the Curva Lesmo, the very first one. I wonder if he's having some sort of issues because he's weaving that car left and right, and he might not be too happy with it at the moment, but he's going to carry on for now. Mikael Merchant though, he's off into the wall then, and that's going to be big damage for Sheldon Scott Muscat coming out of the second Lesmo. That might be race over, unfortunately for him, and I think he has brought that back to the pit lane. But Merchant leading the way then from Bernard Vella in 2nd place. A good start this time around from Jason Muscat to get himself now up into 3rd place. A much better start this time around. There's Andrea Rizzo, who's currently in 6th place. And don't forget as well, we've got a battle for 7th place in the championship between Corral, Rizzo and Foster. Should be a really good one at the moment. It's advantage Rizzo. He's up in 6th place at the moment and trying to chase down that light blue car of Kirsten Bay. He's going for a move now down the inside of Parabolica. Saw that door wide open then and absolutely sends it. Andrea Rizzo now up into 5th place and absolutely taking that position away from Kirsten Bay. Great move there, late move, but the space was there, Alex.
Lick the stamp and then some by Andrea Rizzo. Mamma mia, here at Monza. Wow, that is absolutely brilliant. But looking at the championship standings, virtually speaking, it is a point between the top 3. with the way things are at the moment, or maybe even make that 2 points depending on who's leading. And the thing is that I noticed that on Sheldon Scott Muscat's front end of the McLaren, the front bumper was actually askew, so that would have caused a steering problem, and that's why he ended up in the wall. So the McLaren already had damage in the early phases, but at the moment it is Murcia who is leading the way with Bernard Vella in second. It's then Jason Muscat in P3, and they're 4.2. Well, it's just over 3.9 seconds between the top three. But the strategy, I think you, myself, Simon, Edwin, and Ricardo, very, very much on the same thing. I mean, I wanted to now turn to Simon in the studio. Simon, that was a brilliant start on the restart for Jason Muscat, and this could really prove to be in his favour, because the top three, Murcia leading the way with Bernard Vella and Jason Muscat now tied on virtually 56 points. This has really heated things up for the final round, and we've still got 56 and a bit minutes still to go.
Definitely. You know, we were looking for an exciting race, and that first lap is definitely delivered already. As you said, Jason Muscat got pretty much the best start he could have, jumped 2 guys into P3, and he now just has to chase Bernard Vella and Mikael Murcia as much as he can. And speaking of the top 2, Mikael Murcia also did everything he needed to do off the start and got the lead from Vella. So it'll be interesting to see how he can maintain the pace of the race and manage his tyres and fuel it well enough to hopefully keep his lead during the pit stop phases. What do you two, Ricardo and Edwin, think?
What an amazing start by Murcia and Rizzo, actually. Rizzo parked his car on the curb of the Parabolica to hook it up to the corner. We saw it live. That was an amazing, amazing overtake. He just outbrake a Bayer, and by doing so, clipped the curb so the car could turn in. That was an amazing overtake by Rizzo. And Murcia, what a lightning start. I mean, he just flew from Bernard Vella. He just came alongside him and took off. That's amazing. And now he also did the fastest lap of the race. So he's really flying 4.1 seconds away from Bernard Vella. What an impressive start of the race. Now also, as you mentioned, Simon, let's see how much of the tire wear and life he is using right now, because well, you need to take care of those things as well. The tires could heat up more than they should. They could wear out more. But for now, so far so good. 4.7. The lead is increasing sector by sector. What an amazing start by Murcia.
And as we see here, Dean Vella potentially trying to make a move on Jason Muscat. He's going to have to set it up, maybe toward the Parabolica, if not the first chicane.
Yeah, this is a great
he does seem to have
by
the pace.
He does seem to have the pace for Muscat. And he needs to try to surprise Muscat, actually, Simon. He needs to surprise him and don't break him like Rizzo did on a Bayer. A Bayer never knew that Rizzo would come up the inside there, but he did. And we're going now on the start-finish straight. Dean Vella behind Jason Muscat picks up the slipstream. Let's see if he tries to stick it to the inside of Jason Muscat. We're now braking hard. Jason Muscat thinks already. He tries already to start weaving a bit, but that's some good defensive driving there by Jason Muscat. He parked his car in the middle of the corner. That's some good defensive driving there.
Definitely, Jason would not leave a gap over there. I mean, he's too seasoned to do, shall I call, a mistake, but definitely he won't give such a giveaway to allow Vella to overtake him over there.
He knows he's there, and also they're catching up to Bernard Vella as well. Both of them are catching up Bernard Vella. Bernard Vella doesn't seem to have the pace to match Murcia. Murcia's gone, 5.4.
I just hope that Murcia, as you said, Edwin, is not being too much aggressive, hence at the detriment of the wheels.
Yeah, let's see.
And one thing we have to take into account is that how the strategy is affecting their pace. If Bernard Vella is taking a lot more fuel and is planning on having a shorter pit stop, he's going to be running slower now, but faster in the end.
Exactly.
Whereas if Mikael Murcia
start here, that's an incredible start by Murcia. He just flew away from Bernard Vella. That's an incredible start. Unfortunately, Sheldon Scott Muscat here got bumped. And well, he lost even here. The McLaren here is already weaving here, so that's game over for him. Unfortunately,
we can see it over there going left and right on the track.
1-hour race ended in the first corner of the first lap, unfortunately, because I think, and I could have bet my money actually that we would have finished up on the podium. He was there. But unfortunately, even here, you can see him here. Let's hope we get the replay also of Rizzo, because Rizzo's overtake was amazing, as we're seeing now as well. Abeya picks up the slipstream from Rizzo. Rizzo knows he's there. He's going defensive, on the brakes hard, to the first corner. And let's see if Abeya runs out of track. Rizzo goes the good way. Now Abeya, I think he needs to give the place back. Abeya needs to give the place back, and he does so. He lifts up. Yeah, that's some good defensive driving there as well by Rizzo.
Kieran and Alex, I'll throw back to you. How do you think the race might pan out with the strategy and drivers taking on different fuel loads?
Well, actually, Simon, as you said that, I've just seen that Dean Vella has just got past Jason Muscat for 3rd position. So whether Jason is running with a higher fuel load is anyone's guess, because the tyres are going to be at the end of their life come the end of the first stint. I'm looking at now Jason Muscat. He needs someone to work with. He needs to have that slipstream, and what that's going to do is that's going to extend the life of the tyres around this flat-out circuit, which is 3.6 miles in length. You know, now that he's got the opportunity to be behind Dean Vella, this is from my sort of perspective, this is going to hopefully change a little bit of the dynamic for Jason Muscat. But one of the biggest things about being in the tow of somebody else, and I know that Edwin and Ricardo would agree, as well as Kieran, is that the minute you get into the dirty air, what effectively will happen is that the aerodynamics will be less on that car, despite it being a fixed setup. And that can cause you drivers, if you make a mistake, you outbrake yourself, you get into the wrong part of the apex and try and power out of the corner, that could cause you problems as we're about to complete the first 6th of the race itself.
Yes, and at the moment, Michael Mercia leading by 7.6 seconds. He's absolutely bolted in these first 9.5 minutes in this race. We are expecting the drivers to make at least one pit stop in this race. Probably going to be the one pit stop, although it's not mandatory, that stop. You know, running an hour at Monza on the same tyres and the same fuel load is probably not going to happen. But yes, that's the Bernard Vella then in 2nd place, with the other Vella, Dean Vella, rounding off the top 3. And Dean Vella needs nothing less than a win today in order to give himself a chance of winning this championship. But currently he's just under 10 seconds away. Gianluigi Corrao thinking about a move up the inside of Kirsten Abeya in towards the Roggia chicane, but the door wasn't open that time around, and Corrao has to think twice about it. But it's been a really, really good start for Andrea Rizzo. Abeya momentarily was ahead, but had to use the outer limits of the track to complete the move, and so had to hand back that position. But that's a warning sign for Rizzo there about Kirsten Abeya. I mean, Kirsten Abeya, we saw him win dramatically and emotionally at Lime Rock Park to take his first and only victory of the series so far. We know he's got the pace. What's he going to be able to do against Andrea Rizzo, who Rizzo looks like he's in great form tonight? He's up for this.
I think Rizzo is one of those drivers that has got nothing to lose, everything to gain. We've discussed this earlier on with the likes of Dean Vella, who now is in it is effectively, looking at the virtual championship standings, Michael Mercia currently on 57 points. Bernard Vella currently rounding on 56 points, and would you believe this, with Jason Muscat currently in 4th behind Dean Vella would go up to 48 points and Jason Muscat on 55. So 2 points separate the top 3. There, picture in picture, is Kirsten Abeya closing in on Andrea Rizzo. We've got a yellow out in sector 3, which will be heading towards the Ascari chicane, and Kirsten Abeya unfortunately straight lines the runoff area through the Rettifilio chicane, but does enough just to stay behind, and the stewards will look favourably on that, especially with the team led by Adrian Figalo. Alongside with him will be George Muscat. As we go, we've got the picture on picture, and it's the rear roof cam on Andrea Rizzo's number 8 McLaren. Looking very, very feisty. I mean, especially with that send through the inside of Abeya by Rizzo through the Parabolica a few moments ago. That was a great move. I think that was one of the moves of the season so far. And look, he's just look how calm he is. Andrea Rizzo, I can't see a bead of sweat on that forehead of his right now.
Not at all, and Andrea Rizzo is one of the drivers that doesn't have a sim rig in his home. He needs to come to the World Pro Racing Simulation Centre in order to put the laps in. So, you know, that's going to be instantly a disadvantage, and for him to be running 5th place right now with a great move at Parabolica, it just shows you the quick turnaround he has had to have in order to put the laps in practice. Kirsten Abea is all over the back of him, but twice through the Rettifilo chicane. Out of the 3 times he's been through so far, he's locked up, he's had to take evasive action. Now he's going up the inside, is Abea, in towards the Parabolica, and they make contact there. It was the front right-hand panel of Andrea Rizzo that made contact with the rear left panel of Kirsten Abea. I wonder, Alex, how much damage that McLaren will have at a track where you can't afford to lose any sort of aerodynamics. You can't afford any sort of drag towards the car. How critical will that be? Because here comes Gianluigi Corral looking for a move up the inside, leaves his braking lane down in towards the Rettifilo chicane, and he takes away 6th place. I think that's a wounded car for Andrea Rizzo there.
Very much the case. One of the other interesting things at the front of the field, Bernard Vella is being caught by Dean Vella. The gap is about 9/10 of a second. So Dean Vella is on the move. And this could again change the championship standings, because this could actually put Jason Muscat up into 2nd position in the championship standings if Dean Vella gets past Bernard Vella. Another yellow out in sector number 3. So it looks like Mercier is like a scalded cat off a hot tin roof. He's 11.7 seconds up the road from this battle here, and it is closing. It's now 6/10 of a second and closing. Right on board, picture in picture. As looks like Colin Foster might have had a penalty for, he might have actually pitted. That'd be an early pit stop for Colin Foster, and that's less than 15 minutes into the race. Whether he's gone into repair damage or maybe to put some fuel and tyres on the McLaren. But this battle here is getting closer. Dean Vella now has an opportunity. They've headed out of the Variante Ascari into Parabolica. Dean Vella will get a very, very good run out of this corner. Stays in the wheel tracks of Bernard Vella. Out through the Parabolica. So they're going to go up the gears. Now look at the closing rate of speed here. 5th gear. 230 kph and climbing. It looks like Dean Vella could be pushing over 270 kilometres an hour in the slipstream. Look how close he is now. He's looking to the inside of Bernard Vella. Thinks better of it going into the Rettifilo and backs out of it on that particular occasion. But the closing speed is there. I think it's not a case of if, it's a case of when will Dean Vella get past Bernard Vella for 2nd position. And could that give a bit of a lifeline to Jason Muscat in 4th place?
Yeah, I think Dean Vella as well has a new president of his own fan club, and at this point it'll be Michael Mercier, because if Dean Vella can try and find this move past, it'll be even more in favour of Michael Mercier, not just by the 1 or 2 points, but it'll be a sizable margin if Dean Vella can get this move done. But at the moment, Michael Mercier, I mean, you can't fault him right now. Nearly 12 seconds up the road. He is doing everything he needs to do in order to try and win this championship. But it's what happens behind him that will have a staple, and it will have a say in how this all unfolds. Dean Vella, as you say, looking very feisty here as we pass over a quarter of the way through this race. I mean, we're looking at a great battle here between the Vellas up towards Ascari once again. Let's see how they tackle this one. Through they go then, following each other through Dean Vella, getting the tail out very slightly through the right-hander of Ascari, then back onto the power. They'll go back into the slipstream, up towards Parabolica. 2 calm faces there, up towards the final corner as they look to be in the groove. This is one of those things you have to be, is you have to make sure that you get yourself into that rhythm, not make too many mistakes as they make their way through that final corner. Back onto the power they go, not too early on the throttle, otherwise you'll run the risk of oversteer. Down the start-finish straight, Dean Vella looks a lot closer than he did last time out, and with a little bit of slipstream, might think about a move up the inside in towards the Rettifilo chicane. He's still closing down towards turn 1 at the 200-metre board, then still maybe thinking about it, but rather trying to fill the mirrors of Bernard Vella. Bernard Vella runs slightly deep into the first part, but it sets him up nicely for the second part of Rettifilo chicane. Dean Vella gets the tail and the back end out, and he's lost a little bit of momentum out of turn 2 through Curva Grande, and Bernard Vella holds on for another lap.
Yeah, so that just goes to show that you put a foot wrong, the slightest mistake, as we saw by Dean Vella, going through going through there. Just the slightest earliest application of throttle, too much, can make that car's back end wiggle a bit more than Shakira's hips, to be completely honest with you. But the thing is that the way that he's controlled it, and look how close he is. Now this is going through the Lesmos, now going through the Covas del Seraglio, through into Ascari. Dean Vella now has the perfect opportunity. He's going to go for the move even before they hit the first apex for Ascari, and Dean Vella is through. Well, and you know what's even more interesting? Whilst they've been battling away, Jason Muscat has been slightly closing in the meantime.
He has indeed, and that's the great thing when you're the car behind. You get to close in on the two cars battling ahead of you because they're costing each other time. It gives you a chance to close in the margins once again. But that's a huge move there in the championship implications. It means Michael Murcia is a lot more comfortable at the top of the standings. He'll have seen that move on his screen, that switch from Dean Vella to second place, and he'll be, he is pretty much emotionless when it comes to seeing him in the cockpit there, but I'm sure there'll be a little bit of a relief of pressure. We'll hand it over to the studio as we're coming up towards 41 minutes to go. That is an important move there. Dean Vella up into second place, Bernard Vella in third, but Michael Murcia 14.7 in the lead. Simon, that is a huge advantage.
Definitely. If you're Michael Murcia, you're looking at that gap and just breathing a sigh of relief for now, because you have that buffer, you have that gap to be able to run your own race, manage your own pace, and essentially control how fast you can go. I do think, though, I kind of have a suspicion that Bernard Vella is probably running higher fuel than the other racers. He didn't really fight with Dean Vella too much. I think he realized that he might be losing too much time, so he let Dean go so he could just focus on his own race and his own strategy. Edwin and Ricardo, what do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely Murcia is flying in this race. I mean, 15 seconds gap with Dean Vella is quite a lot.
Oh, there is a crash. That's Dean Vella. That's Dean Vella crashed.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
indeed.
Just after making that move.
That's Dean Vella who's crashed.
And you can see in the image in the bottom right of your screen just how upset he is.
So
that's
actually
an important... I'm sorry to cut over you, Ricardo, but that's a huge impact in the championship. Now Muscat is behind Bernard Vella, and he's going for it. The problem I find with Jason Muscat, sorry, Ricardo,
no,
I jumped on you. The problem I'm finding with Jason Muscat is why hasn't he closing the gap while they were fighting? He could have at least get those 2 seconds gap, at least to a second. He has to now work hard for it to get the gap to Bernard Vella.
The only reason which I think that Jason did not...
Oh, let's see the replay. Sorry about that. He just went out of the first Lesmo. Now he's braking hard into the second Lesmo. And what happened? He snapped the drop. Oh, it snapped on him. It snapped on him. That's an incredible... That's a huge impact on the championship, huh?
No, I was saying that the only reason why Jason did not close too much the gap was that he was expecting some crash, I think, between the two Vellas, so that he doesn't get involved in the accident. What we saw, I mean, it was a very unlucky for Dean Vella. Bernard Vella probably did give him space, and so that he could manage his race. And now we saw that he was unlucky, and he's the second DNF in this race.
For sure. Kieran and Alex, what's it like when you're in Dean's position, you've just made a mistake, and you've taken yourself out of the championship, really? How frustrating must feel?
Well, taking yourself out of a championship, I've never had that misfortune, unfortunately. I've never been close enough. But I know what it's like to crash out of a race you know you should have done well at. That's going to be heartbreaking for him. He knew he had the pace there. He was looking very strong to at least try and grab second place in that one. But that little mistake might have been just carrying a little bit too much speed through the second Lesmo. And it's so easy to do with that little bit of banking. When you get yourself into that rhythm, you start to try and push more and more, but the tyres are always starting to wear out, and unfortunately for him, it snapped on him there. There was no chance. Once it snapped, he was a passenger in that one. Meanwhile, Gianluigi Corrao looking for a move past Kirsten Abey. You'll have seen at the top of your screen there that Kirsten Abey does have himself a penalty. Now, we haven't been informed of that one, so we're going to assume that's a track limit penalty that will be applied to his race. But Gianluigi Corral here has a fantastic opportunity to try and grab 4th place in this race, in the slipstream of Kirsten Abey down the start-finish straight. He is starting to close then down towards the Rettifidio chicane. You see Kirsten Abey trying to plant his car in the middle of the track, then moving back towards the racing line. Gianluigi Corral thinking about a move, but Kirsten Abey has overrun the first braking zone once again, and Gianluigi Corral says, thank you very much, I'll take that P4 away from you. Kirsten Abey is struggling with the Rettifidio chicane. That's the 3rd time we've seen him this race missing his braking point and having to go straight on, Alex.
Yeah, but interestingly enough, with Dean Vella's retirement after that off-track excursion, I think it was, yeah, as you and Edwin rightly said, it snapped on him. And I think it was mainly probably because of the fact he put the power down a little bit too early. May have been a bit eager on the throttle. But looking at the virtual championship standings, Michael Mercier currently leads on 57 points from a virtual standings perspective. And then it's a tie between Bernard Vella and Jason Muscat. So Muscat has to finish 2nd to win, and it will be by the narrowest of margins. It will be 1 solitary point. He has to go for it, and he has to start putting in the hard work now. He's 1.5 seconds behind Bernard Vella, and if Bernard Vella makes a slip up, then Jason Muscat will capitalise, and Merchega will be powerless to do anything about it, as we're about 6.5 minutes away from the halfway stage of the race.
That's going to be an important thing as well. That mark has been set. Jason Muscat knows that he's got to have that 2nd place. He needs that 2nd place. And with 1 fewer car in the rivalry, it's just been handed to him here. This is his chance. The car ahead is for the championship. You never want to wish ill of your rivals, and he'll be gutted not to have battled Dean Vella. But in the grand scheme of things, he's got to focus on the car ahead of him. And the car ahead of him, Bernard Vella, will be for the championship if he can make that move past. 35 minutes ago, just under 36 to go. A 20-second lead separates Michael Mercier and the number 4 car we see of Bernard Vella in 2nd place. And, well, there you go. There's your 3 title rivals right there. They're all in line astern at the moment. Mercier leading the way and has the advantage right now, so long as that championship leader of Jason Muscat remains in 3rd place. It is all to play for, and it's way too close to call, Alex.
It always is when it comes down to brass tacks. You know, it's been an 8-round championship. There's been lengthy, there's been hijinks, there's been dramas, there've been penalties handed out, and you know the drivers are really, really under pressure now. And I think it comes back to what Edwin and Ricardo said earlier on when they were in discussion with Simon, that you know you've got to really, really sort of put in your strategy right, and some drivers might be running high fuel loads. Muscat might be just deciding, you know, I'm going to go as long as possible, maybe put a couple of litres of fuel in, stick in a fresh set of tyres. Okay, he might lose that in the pit lane with regards to the time of having the tyres replaced, but then if he decides to do that and stays out longer and does the undercut on Bernard Vella, he's got an opportunity. Now the gap between them is about 1.5 seconds at the moment. So Muscat, I think, is just trying to run his own race. And when a driver normally says, I'm not thinking about the championship, you know for a fact that they are telling porcupines. They're telling you that they're not thinking about it, where in actual fact they are. And it's just about how calm and composed Jason Muscat can be. But then it's also about if he can close in on Vella. And Edwin said earlier, why didn't Muscat close in on Bernard Vella when Bernard and Dean were battling? That's a very, very good point there. And it's whether Jason is looking to extend the life of the tyres as long as humanly possible and get a fresh set of boots, couple of litres of fuel, and go for broke.
Yeah, the lower fuel load will be beneficial. See, a lighter car, better handling, but more importantly, less time to reach your top speed, and possibly even a higher top speed at that as well. It's all going to be playing out in the drivers' minds in terms of strategy, whether they have an early stop and, you know, get some fresh rubber but have a heavier fuel load for more laps, or whether they cope with some worn tyres past the halfway stage but know that when they get the fresh rubber on, they've got a lighter car, and that might be beneficial for the tyre wear towards the end of the race anyway. We'll have to wait and see if drivers come into the pits. It will be more of a case of when, really, won't it, Alex? We're not expecting anybody to try and go for the no stop in this race. You'll leave yourself as a bit of a sitting duck towards the end of the race if you decide to try and make it without stopping at all. And if you're Michael Mercier, of course, you've got a 20-second lead. Now, normally, when you're leading the race, you're at the disadvantage because you're the only driver who can't react on the same lap as anybody else. The fact that he's 20 seconds up the road, well, I don't think he's got to worry too much about the undercut.
No, he's just got to worry about that there's no problems in the pit lane. That's what Michael Mercier's got to really worry about. I'd like to hear from Simon, Edwin, and Ricardo about the different strategies that are being employed. I mean, Edwin, you brought up earlier on about the fact that Jason Muscat didn't close on Bernard and Dean Vella when they were battling away for second and third position. But it seems like Muscat's trying to keep himself a bit calmer, isn't he?
Yeah, he has that 2 seconds, 1.5 second buffer, and he's just staying there, staying behind Bernard Vella, maybe trying to study him to see where his weak points are, maybe. The other problem I see, though, is Mercia we're almost there, almost half the race, 32 minutes, now 31:59, and Mercia has a 20-second lead and no pit stops. So I don't think he has a light fuel load. I think it's just sheer pace, sheer race pace. That's what I think, though, but only they know what's the fuel amount in their car. But Muscat is doing his race just behind Bernard Vella, staying there, just showing that he is there to Bernard Vella. I think his tactics will be whatever Bernard Vella does, he does the opposite way. For example, Bernard Vella pits, he doesn't pit and fly a hot lap. Bernard Vella doesn't pit, he pits, Muscat pits, and does the undercut. I think that's what's in his mind. I think he is trying to do the reverse, the opposite of what Bernard Vella does.
If I may add on to what Edwin was saying, I think when it comes to Mercia's strategy, even if he is running lighter fuel and he does need to spend longer in the pit lane to refill it, I can't imagine he'll lose 22 seconds on extra fuel when the other cars have to pit as well. He may lose 10, at maximum 15, but 20 seconds is a long time to be refilling.
If nothing happens to Mercia, he's gone. He's gone. 22-second gap, he's gone. And I don't think he has a light fuel load as well, because half the race in, and he didn't even stop once. I don't think he has a light fuel load. I think it's just him showing what he can do. As we're saying that Jason Muscat, I think, ran a bit wide in the first corner. That's what I'm just looking at the monitor now. I think he just went a bit wide. That's a telling sign. It's either maybe the tires are a bit worn out, or maybe just him making a mistake. I don't know.
It could be. Kieran and Alex, when you're driving these cars and your tires start to wear, how different do they handle compared to like the start of the race or on fresher tires?
There's quite a different parity between, when you've got fresh rubber on the cars, you've got that layer of bitumen, that initial chemical that the car will burn through in the initial phases. But when you get towards the carcass of the tyre, you'll get the marbling, you'll get the graining, the degradation over time, and that'll depend on quite a different amount of factors. The weight of the car, including the fuel load, that'll also include how hard you've been pushing those tyres, whether your setup has been conducive to it, whether the pace has been respective of how hard you're pushing. And you're going to see that the cars at the back end are going to be slightly loose. But hang on a second, we've got rain. The wipers are on. This has changed things. And I think we're going to have wet weather tyres put on imminently because Bernard Vella and Mercier's in the pits.
The Mercier in then from the lead. And will that be for wet weather tyres? Well, it is starting to rain, but are we anywhere near the crossover point? We'll have to see. Yeah, you can definitely see it is starting to rain out there as we make our way on towards the start-finish straight. So Mercier, who's just into the pit lane, well now, what tyres will he emerge on? Because Bernard Vella's just gone past, clearly comfortable that the dry tyres are the way to go. And we'll be able to see Mercier relieving the pit lane very soon. But we'll, of course, drop down the order as he's in the pit lane. But well, for Mercier then coming into the pit lane, well, what tyres is he going to emerge on? And how quickly will this rain change the surface of the track? There is Mercier in the pit lane right now.
The wipers are going frantically on the front of Bernard Vella's car. Look, they're at full speed. There's Jason Muscat. Mercia's been in the pits for nearly 46 seconds. So what they're trying to do, I mean, he's still in the pit lane at the moment. So he's coming towards the end of pit lane. I'd like to see where exactly Mercia is coming through. And there he is, coming out of the pits. The wiper's on full chat.
What type of tyres does he have on?
So
as well?
now this, I mean, that was a 45.7 second pit stop. So I would imagine that's probably new tyres. So that would be the wet weather tyres, plus also maybe a little bit of additional fuel. And what that will also mean is that Mercia will have enough of a reserve just in case things get a bit hairy. And now with 27 minutes and 40 seconds to go, you know what this means? This is where things get interesting, folks, because looking at it from this perspective, so Mercia now down in 6th position. That's 3 points. Bernard Vella, 10 points. That puts him on 50. I can't believe I'm saying that. That puts him on 58 points. Okay, Jason Muscat, effectively now, that puts them on a tie. And on count back, if these two chance it, they're both going on for another lap. I think they realise that the crossover isn't 100% there. They're going to
You see there, there is water starting to appear onto the track, and well, I heard there from Malta, all the way in Malta, I heard Edwin say, well, what tyres did Mercia emerge on? Well, I want to throw it down to you guys because the track looks like it's getting wetter by the second rather than the minute. Are we anywhere near that crossover point, I wonder?
You say that Ritzer is in the pits. I can't imagine he would put dry tyres on at this stage. He must be going in for wets. So if that's anything to go by, you could argue that the crossover lap is coming up now or in the next lap.
There's a spin.
That's Jason Muscat.
That's spinning. Yeah. I was going to say, you need to be so careful in this situation because the slick tires on a wet track, that's not the way to go. And the track is really wet. Who's in third place? That's Correo. Correo's in third place.
And he made a mistake as well. It is definitely the crossover period. The cars need to pit this lap for wet tires.
Oh, this is going to play huge.
There he goes. He spins.
Spin over there.
I think he... Yeah, sorry to cut across you guys. I think that both Vella and Muscat should have pitted the previous time around when they were about to cross the finish line. I think Bernard Vella will come into the pits this time around as he's made his way through Ascari, but luckily enough, because of Correo's spin there, Jason Muscat still in second position. But what that now means... I mean, you look at the gap with Mercia. Mercia's down in 5th place now. That puts him on 54 points. And he's 56 seconds behind Bernard Vella, who I would think is going to have to play it safe. And is that car going to go to the right? No, he's going for... What? I've really got to throw this down to Edwin and Ricardo and Simon. This is craziness. Is Bernard Vella going for the ultimate Jensen Button routine right about now?
Yeah, definitely. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Carry on.
This is definitely ambitious, crazy. I don't know.
Ambitious is a very kind word for it.
I think probably we can't really say any expletives, but there's probably quite a few popping into all our heads right about now.
One or two.
We have to see also the gap between Bernard Vella and Muscat, which is not diminishing. That's Correo's in the pits right now, and between Vella and Muscat, it's 14.2 seconds. Now 13.5. Now 12.6, but he's going through. This is Jason Muscat we're looking at right now. There's a yellow flag in sector 3, but now it's okay. Correo is in the pits. Where is Mercia? Mercia's in pit 3 with 53 seconds, and he's catching him hand over fist. Mercia's flying on those wet tires. These guys need to be so careful. The track is soaking wet. This is Michael Mercia, and as he rounds up the first corner, he's flying away. They have to be more. How costly was that mistake from Muscat? That was so costly in terms of the championship race and finishing, obviously, and the championship. That was a costly mistake. Although saying that, Muscat is really honing in. 15 seconds was before. Now it's already 13 seconds.
I think if Vella isn't in the pits this lap, he's going to really start regretting it. Unless he's hoping to just keep it out of the walls, keep it on the track, and survive for the entire 51 seconds.
Well,
but
we have 23 minutes left. If
quite a lot.
Muscat comes in,
Quite a lot.
I mean, it's where Bernard Vella's still going on. He's still going on. That's another lap for him. He's going for broke, I think, guys.
Yeah, I think he's realised now that he's missed that window where he could come in and get some fresh tyres on. He's now rolling the dice. So too is Jason Muscat. They've realised now the only way they're going to beat Murcia is if they don't pit. If they pit, they're going to lose so much time and be on the same tyres as Murcia. He's going to be able to build that lead up again. They realise now that being on dry tyres on a wet track is literally the only way they have a chance at this championship. If you hadn't had a chance to grab the popcorn, I think this is your last chance, because as we've seen with Jason Muscat, it is treacherous out there. But all the credit so far to Bernard Vella. He is driving absolutely superbly out there. He's keeping that gap to around 52 seconds, and if we look at him, he looks calm, he looks composed, and even on the wrong tyres at the moment, he looks like he's absolutely flying.
I do wonder if perhaps this was his strategy right from the beginning, to take enough fuel to the end of the race and not pit. And now that the rain's coming down, he's essentially keeping with the same strategy, but just having to manage the traction and this application of power a lot more carefully.
And he's just switched his wipers off as well.
Oh,
so he clearly. So now I don't think the rain's falling anymore.
There's no rain. There's no rain in front of Bernard Vella. That's on board with Bernard Vella. There's no rain at all.
So that could mean the rain stopped.
Yeah, and that could also bring another proposition in here. If Murcia's gone onto wet weather tyres, those are going to start overheating the minute that the water gets dispersed from the track. So Michael Murcia's opportunity at a title push at the final round of the championship could be under threat here. And Bernard Vella could be the one that has made the biggest gamble possible and has made it work.
He's going from hero to zero. Oh, sorry, the other way around. From zero to hero, actually. He went from zero last race to a hero now. That's an incredible drive. Unfortunately for Muscat, that was a costly mistake at the Valade della Roggia. That was a costly mistake. But the gap is still there, 13.8. Anything could happen.
It really could, and we've
got
21 minutes to go. Jason Muscat into the pits then. So what tyres go on now? Because the rain has just stopped, but these dry tyres have a limit at some point. So there's Jason Muscat into the pits, and then of course fuel will be a matter as well. There might be a case where they just don't have enough fuel to make it to the end. We've got yellow flags somewhere out in Sector 1 as Michael Murcia just trying to find any bit of grip out there through the final corner at Parabolica, literally tiptoeing his way round the final corner and onto the start-finish straight to start another lap. So he'll get that position from Jason Muscat up into second place. And now Bernard Vella has one thing on his mind. It's that 42-second gap between himself and Michael Murcia with 20 minutes to go. Alex, this could go either way, but at the moment, I mean, you can't take anything away from that number 4 car of Bernard Vella, driving superbly on tyres that are not suited at all for these conditions. All Murcia can do now is put everything behind this, qualifying lap after qualifying lap, to try and catch Bernard Vella. In theory, he's on the better tyres, but it has stopped raining. There's still a lot of standing water out on the track, though.
Yes, and with that, you know, you look at the gap now, it's climbing down. It's now under 39 seconds, so it was at one point. There's Kirsten Abai again straight lining the Variante del Retafiglio, and here comes Andrea Rizzo, who earlier on in the race put one up the inside of the number 3. And now Jason Muscat is out of the pit lane, still in 3rd position. So at the moment, as the way things stand, Bernard Vella leads virtually the championship by 2 points. With Murcia actually second, if you look at countback, with Jason Muscat in 3rd. Both equal on 56 points. But it's about what happens now in the next 19 minutes, because as you said, Kieran and Edwin, rain is not falling as Rizzo gets a bit sideways going through the second Lesmo, the first Lesmo. The thing is that if they are starting to catch, and now Marchega is less than 37 seconds behind Bernard Vella, so there's still all to play for. It's going to extend in certain points of the circuit where Bernard Vella is able to use the dry tyres, the slick tyres on the wet weather surface, but whilst the rest of them that have pitted they're handing Bernard Vella a bit of a get-out-of-jail-free card, because they're the ones pushing the water off the surface, and that could be all that Bernard Vella needs to sew up this championship on the final race. And considering the fact that he won the season opener, he won at round 5, and if he wins here, that's going to put him on a total of 58 points. Sideways again from Andrea Rizzo, but he caught it. Well held, good sir, coming out of the Parabolica.
Well held indeed. And, well, I think as well, with Bernard Vella leading the way by just over half a minute, the question remains is that is there enough time for Murcia to close down? As you were saying, how much water gets cleared from the surface? Well, we saw in the practice session, we joined with about a couple of minutes to go, and that water really wasn't shifting in that last 10 minutes. So calls into question, well, how quickly does this track dry up? We saw it in practice, not very quickly.
Is Rizzo on slicks? I think Rizzo's on slicks. I think Rizzo is on slicks and the Bear is on wets. That's why this tussle is so heating up. As we see now, they're going down to the Variante della Roggia with braking hard now. Kirsten Beyer still in P4 and Andrea Rizzo in P5. Andrea Rizzo's driving beautifully today as he comes out of the corner to the first Lesbos. Beyer thinks he's going to defend the position in P4. Still Rizzo in P5, Beyer in P4. Now coming to the second Lesbo. I think Rizzo is on slick tires. That is why he's looking so feisty. Look at the acceleration from Rizzo. He's side by side with Beyer. Beyer knows he's there. He's turned to the left hand side. Rizzo on the right hand side. Up to the Variante Ascari. Let's see who's going to break first, and I think Rizzo might have this one. Beyer, might have this one covered because he's on the inside. Beyer tries to switch back. He doesn't succeed in this particular moment. But still, look at the Beyer sideways there. Rizzo, it's just an amazing battle, eh? Coming to the Parabolica once again. Rizzo is on slick tires. That is why he's having so much better acceleration than a Beyer.
One of the interesting things, Edwin, is the fact that Andrea Rizzo has not got the wipers on when right in the slipstream as he goes wide coming out of Parabolica. That was wide and then some. They both went, the back ends both went twitchy on both cars, but Andrea Rizzo makes it through, and Kirsten Abaya right on the number 8's case down the start-finish straight.
Yeah, it was all 4 wheels out the track.
I know. That's track limits abuse and then some, but that'll be one of his pings. And Kirsten Abaya again. That seems to be an Abaya special. I'm sorry to say that. Kirsten just doesn't seem to have any luck into the braking zone, into the Variante della Filio. But at least he gets things back up and running again. But in the meantime, Bernard Vella is being closed in on by Michael Murcia. And Murcia's got the gap down to 24 seconds. Muscat is now 58.5 seconds behind Bernard Vella. So there is an opportunity here that in the last 15 minutes, how long can the number 4 McLaren of Bernard Vella hold on for? That's the big question.
Well, we must hand it over to the guys down in the studio as well. Simon, want to start with you. With less than 15 minutes to go, 3/4 of the way through, 24-second gap between our leaders as we see Corral and Abaya battling for position. Corral going up the inside in towards the second Lesmo. Not normally an overtaking opportunity, but don't tell Gianluigi Corral that because he's secured that move for 5th place. A nice move there from Corral to move himself up a position. So Simon, 22.6 now with 15 minutes to go. Is it possible for Murcia to catch Vella?
It's really difficult to say, especially, the more the track dries, Bernard Vella is going to come back into his own, come back into his speed. And Michael Murcia's tires are going to wear. He's going to start burning through his fuel and burning through his tires, and he's going to lose this pace that he has right now. But, having said that, in the span of while I've been talking, he's pretty much gained 4, if not 5 seconds. It is definitely possible. I think what we might see is Michael Murcia will definitely catch Vella. It's a question of if he has the pace to get past after that.
And Ricardo, I just want to ask you this question. Which driver would you prefer to be right now? The driver leading the race but on the wrong tyres, or the driver in second place on the right tyres for now?
Oh, definitely I would be the second driver with the right tyres. I hate it when I know that I have someone chasing me and knowing that I'm like a sitting duck over there waiting for the attack to happen. As it stands right now, I think that Vella eventually might have to pit. I don't know whether he was aiming for a full race without pitting, but as we can see from the lap times, I mean, Mercia is closing down lap after lap. So, but as we know also that Vella with second place, if I'm not wrong, he will win the championship. So maybe this was a calculated risk for Vella.
Yeah, and these are all these strategic choices being made that we don't get the luxury of seeing as Jason Muscat lights up the rear tyres very slightly going through the second part of Ascari. There is Andrea Rizzo. Alex, P4 for Andrea Rizzo so far in this race. He is absolutely loving it out there right now. And now that he's brought that car back into the pits, they've managed to fix that car. It looks as good as ever, and he's much more comfortable, looks a lot more at the pointy end now.
All I can say to Andrea Rizzo is bravo, bravo. Well done, good sir. I mean, absolutely. I think the drive of the evening, it has to go to Andrea Rizzo. You know, okay, yeah, granted that Bernard Vella is leading the way, but Andrea Rizzo, you know, having the opportunity to fight against some really, really well-recognised Maltese sim racing talents in an environment that is very much unfamiliar to him, but also in a car that up until this season, you know, up until the multinational GT3 Championship sponsored by Enemed, you know, Andrea Rizzo was a guy that we didn't really know of. Now, we know of this driver, and this driver will be one to watch, I'm sure of it. And not just in Malta, but maybe if he gets the opportunity to get a sim rig at home, Andrea Rizzo could be one of those drivers that we have to watch ourselves about in the weeks to come, because he's done an absolutely brilliant job. And in the meantime, with 11 minutes and 20 seconds to go on the clock, Michael Mercier is less than 12.5 seconds behind Bernard Vella. The gap between Vella and Muscat has now dropped down to 45.5 seconds. So it looks like the Jaws music might need to be played imminently, but off stream, because otherwise we'll be hit with a copyright strike on that one.
Yeah, just very slightly. But yes, the Jaws theme will be absolutely playing right now, and Michael Mercier will be returning to the beach, because right now he is starting to close in, and now it's the gap between himself and Vella is getting closer and closer. And there's the more chance now that Mercier will catch Vella. The only thing is now, will he be able to overtake him? And how will the track evolve going into the last 10 minutes of this race? There is Mercier then trying to fight the car, then it wants to snap on him going through the second part of the Rettifilio chicane, then through Curva Grande. That banking, that very slight banking towards the apex there, allowing you to just keep your throttle pedal pinned down. As we see now Mercier making his way towards the Roger chicane. We also saw just further up the road there, that was Colin Foster in 7th place right now, looking to try and end this season with a hatful of points on the board. He's 3 laps down at the moment, but fair play to him. He's still in this race and could pick up some points as well. 10 minutes to go into the last 6th of this race and into the last 10 minutes of the championship. Bernard Vella leads Michael Mercier by 8 seconds at the moment, but that gap is coming down in the favour of Michael Mercier. R3 in Malta, I mean, your predictions please. Can Bernard Vella hold on, or is this Michael Mercier's to win?
I think we're going to see a last lap, a final lap battle as well between Mercier and Bernard Vella. Bernard Vella doesn't care a thing actually if he wins or finishes in P2, as long as he wins the championship, which he might. Obviously we have still 9 minutes to go, so but he might win the championship even in P2 obviously, but he might win it. But although having said that, Mercier is really honing in on Bernard Vella. He's 5.6 seconds, and I think we could see him in the background. No, we can't. That's Foster there. There he is in the background. He is catching hand over fist, Bernard Vella.
Definitely, you know, the gap is now down 6 seconds. But if my very quick math is correct, Alex will have to correct me. If Michael Mercier gets into the lead, he will win the championship. Second place is not enough for Bernard Vella. It will be enough for Jason Muscat, but it's not enough for Bernard Vella. He needs to win the race.
Yeah, yeah, spot on there, Simon, because it's at the moment Bernard Vella, virtually speaking, is in the lead of the championship with 58 points. Mercier, if he gets past, will get another 2 points to his credit, and then it will switch back to being even Stevens between Jason Muscat in third and Bernard Vella in second in the championship standings. And you can see now, I saw a little look to the right-hand side because Bernard Vella now knows he's got a very quickly closing Michael Mercier on his case, and the gap now less than 3 seconds. Oh, this is getting tight, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that in a couple of minutes we'll see some nice action between Mercia and Vella.
That's it, and we go on board right now with Michael Mercia through the back straight here under the bridge, and we go to the Variante Ascari. Let's see how he brakes here. He brakes really good here. The problem is for Mercia, he has Foster as well. Those blue flags need to come up now, actually, because Foster needs to get out of the way so that Mercia and Bernard Vella can battle it on. We still have, what, 8 minutes of racing? 7:22 minutes of racing, sorry about that. And even Foster is honing into Bernard Vella. Bernard Vella lost all pace.
He's been on those tyres the entire hour. They must be right down to the metal and grit. It's going to be so difficult for him to hold on to it. 1.3 seconds the gap now. Mercia is there, and he has 7 minutes to plan his attack.
Yeah,
Foster will get in the way a little bit, but I can't imagine Foster will be too much of a hindrance, especially if Foster's going to challenge Bernard, as it looks like he's about to do.
That's
right
Foster
now.
up the inside. Foster up the inside of Bernard Vella. He's going to unlap, or one lap actually. He's going to unlap. No, that's a blue flag. That's a blue flag. That's a blue flag. Okay.
That is very respectful from Foster. He can see the battle going on at the lead, and he doesn't want to get involved to ruin it. So fair play to him.
Look at the gap now, eh? Look at the gap. It's half a second now, and we're going to go. That's it. We're going to go to the Variante Alta with Bernard Vella on P1. Michael Mercia on P2. He's going to look to the left-hand side. There he goes now. Michael Mercia braking hard now. Bernard Vella still in P1. Michael Mercia P2. This is the Variante della Roggia. We have a great exit there by Michael Mercia. He looks to the left-hand side, up to the inside. First Lesmo, braking hard, and there he is. That's a good one. That's a really good one. He's sideways as well.
I did see that. Nearly lost it there.
That's an amazing overtake. That's an amazing. So Michael Mercia P1, Bernard Vella P2. Great overtake.
That is the move for the championship. And look at Foster now challenging Bernard Vella. I think he knows that. I think Bernard Vella knows that he doesn't in it anymore. He doesn't have the pace. He doesn't have the tires. Michael Mercia, all he has to do is drive it home. He has 5 minutes to just not bin the car.
Well, I bet Vella there will be hoping, or was hoping that it would be a 54-minute race rather than a 60-minute race. He might have been able to just about hold on, but you're absolutely right. On 55 minutes on those same tyres for Bernard Vella, they must be screaming in agony at the moment, and especially when they're being asked to try and get through this wet weather, this treacherous track. It's going to be in the hands of Michael Mercia. He's got 5 minutes now to try and just keep it on the island now and get this checkered flag. If he does that, he will become the champion. Well, Alex, we've got 5 minutes to go then. We've seen some great performances, some really good strategic battles. At the moment, it's advantage Michael Mercia. And look on this as well. Just through the second and third sector alone, 5-second gap between himself and Bernard Vella. Bernard Vella's tyres are absolutely shredded.
Yeah, I think you know, you can see there that Bernard Vella's just going to try and bring it home. I mean, effectively, well, we got yellow in sector 1. Oh, Foster's gone off the track big time.
Yes.
And that was heading out of the Rettifilio, so not good for Nick Foster. He'd done all that lovely bit of work to get past Bernard Vella, and then all of a sudden threw it away going through into the Variante del Rettifilio. But you know, you have to feel in some respects for Jason Muscat, who is still 30 seconds behind Michael Mercia. And what this means is that effectively the championship will be decided by 2 points. Because effectively, no, hang on a second, 1 point. 1 point. That's what covers the top 3.
Well, I have to say, sorry to interrupt you there, Alex, but this is far from over. If motorsport has taught me anything, this is far from over. We've got to remember that Bernard Vella here, he's on tyres that are not suited to these conditions, and also, pretty much as Simon said, they're going to be worn down to the canvas. If Jason Muscat can just keep up that pressure and start to close in, you might see Bernard Vella he'll have to try and guard against any mistakes now and try and get this home, because if Jason Muscat was to inherit second place, that changes the championship onto its head once again. Less than 3.5 minutes to go. The gap is just now crept under 30 seconds, so it's highly unlikely that's going to happen. But motorsport works in mysterious ways, Alex.
Well, I've just seen, out of the gap between Bernard Vella and Jason Muscat, it's dropped by at least 1.2 seconds. But the thing is that if Muscat had maybe, say, another 4 to 5 minutes on his side, I would say yes. But with 3 minutes to go, it's not going to be easy. I mean, Mercier's clocked out 9.1 seconds, and it's going to be climbing when he gets out of the Rettifilio. I mean, hats off to Bernard Vella for driving through what has been probably one of the most challenging races he's ever done to battle for the Maltese National GT3 Championship. And now Mercier's up the road by 11.2 seconds. It looks to be game over, unfortunately, for Bernard Vella and Jason Muscat. And Muscat was coming into this with a 2-point advantage over Bernard Vella, and it's now going to end up being that Mercier, with the way things standing, that will be 4 victories, and that will be 57 points to the number 11 at the end of the championship. Bernard Vella would take second based on countback because he's got 2 victories to his credit at the opening round and round 5. And Jason Muscat at Loch Drummond last time out took the victory, but it won't be enough because he'll end up P3. And next time around, I think, will be our final lap of the race, and Mercier's just got to bring it home.
He has indeed, and just around about 4 miles to do it as well. I mean, all credit to Bernard Vella. He knew he had to try something different with a 20-second gap before the rain started to fall. He knew he had to try something different. The option to try something different was always there. It was the only option he could take, as Michael Mercier tiptoes his way for the penultimate time through Parabolica and on towards the start-finish straight. And now crossing the line for that penultimate time to start the final lap, not only in Monza, but of the Malta National GT3 Championship 2021, fueled by Enemed. Then just 3.6 miles to go for Mercier as he makes his way down towards the Rettifilio chicane for the final time. And you're absolutely right, Alex, as Kirsten Abea slightly gets in the way there, but he means well, trying to let Mercier through then. He won at his first round, at round number 2, and made it back-to-back victories at rounds 2 and 3. Also got the win at round 6 2 weeks ago, and we thought maybe it might have been a bit of a misstep from him last time out. He only scored the 6 points there, still managed to finish on the podium, but he'll be thinking right now that's rather 6 points gains than anything else as he makes his way for the final time towards the Lesmos. Then we've got 20 seconds left on the clock. This will definitely be our final lap of the championship then through the second Lesmo, and Michael Mercier has just got to do what he's done for the last hour, is just keep his cool, keep it on the track for this final sector then as we head through the Curva del Seraglio up towards Ascari. We will go. The clock has expired. The checkered flag will be awaiting Mercier at the start-finish line as he makes his way through in towards Ascari, keeping it nice and tidy through the left-hander, through the right-hander, and back through the left-hander again. The tail tries to sneak out on him through turn 9 there, but he manages to gather it up onto the back stretch then, and maybe that wave of emotion might be starting to hit him now as he makes his way up towards Parabolica for the final time in this race, heading through the 11th turn at this legendary Monza circuit. He's already trying to keep that car in check then as he makes his way towards the checkered flag. Michael Mercier will be your Enemed Malta National GT3 Champion 2021. A huge congratulations to him. He had to earn that one. A fantastic championship for him. 4 wins out of 8 in the championship. And I tell you what was a 20-second gap before the rain fell, he had it all to do in that second half of the race. And my, has he earned that one. A huge congratulations to Michael Mercier, as we'll see the number 4 car of Bernard Vella soon make his way across the line as well to confirm Mikael Mercia's victory, not only in this race, but in the championship. And Alex, look how much that means to him.
The emotions are overflowing. The adrenaline is still coursing through his veins. I think I even saw him wipe a tear away from his right eye, did Mikael Mercia. But well deserved, securing the Malta National GT3 Championship, fueled by Enemed, by just 1 point. That's how close it can be. Even if it went to count back, you can see that now he's realised that he's now the Maltese national champion. It means so much. There has been so much hard work. All the drivers that have gone through into this championship have gone through a rigorous qualifying phase. They've gone through 7 half-hour encounters over the last 7 weeks, and having double the distance to deal with, double the time, 60 minutes tonight here at a circuit that is known to bite back hard. When you push yourself beyond the limit along with man and machine, Monza can bite back hard. But Mikael Mercia, hats off to him, because he's definitely deserved this one. And you have to give commiserations to the likes of Dean Vella, who unfortunately had that incident that took him out of the race at the halfway point. Bernard Vella and Jason Muscat fought right up until the bitter end. But Mikael Mercia, a well-deserving champion.
I tell you, that smile is infectious, isn't it, from Mikael Mercia? That the emotions will run high long into the night. The celebrations will long into the night then for Mikael Mercia, and as you said, winning the championship by a single point. Mikael Mercia is your Malta National GT3 champion, fueled by Enemed. And what a closing race we had there. We had a little bit of everything. We had the unfortunate incident for Dean Vella, where he slipped off the track at the second Lesmo, went into the wall rear first and lost that rear wing, and unfortunately retired from the race. We had what looked like a comfortable race from Mikael Mercia before the rain decided to show up and play its hand in the race. We had drivers there like Bernard Vella trying to make the whole race last on one set of dry tyres, even through the rain. It had everything in that race. Mikael Mercia comes out the deserving winner, not only of just this race, but of the whole championship too.
Yeah, I have to give props to Bernard Vella. But Mikael Mercia, your Malta National GT3 Championship winner for 2021. Fueled by Enemed, we have to say a big thank you to the Malta Motorsport Federation, 3CX, 5FM and Gaming Malta for their welcome support as always. But, you know, the smiles are for miles with this man. I mean, just like literally the minute he did the Sebastian Vettel finger, when he came across the line and knew he'd done it, I mean, that just shows how much hard work, dedication, late hours into the middle of the night, practicing away, using every single trick in the book, leaving no stone unturned. And, you know, Mikael Mercia hits the honour roll of being a national champion here in Malta, and what's more, it's in sim racing. And with World Pro Racing's efforts through the likes of Adrian Figallo and Justin Nipsud and the whole team back at Malta's home base, this just showcases that sim racing here in Malta is alive and very much well.
We saw how close that championship battle was, going all the way through for the championship to be won by a single point. There were 4 drivers who could have had a hand in this championship going into the final round here, but it was Mikael Mercia who came out on top. Commiserations to Jason Muscat, to Bernard Vella and to Dean Vella. They put in a massive effort here tonight. They put a massive effort through the entire championship. I think only one of the races wasn't won by that top 4, and that was the race that was won by Kirsten Abea at Lime Rock Park. A thoroughly enjoyable championship through and through. We hope you've enjoyed it as well. We of course will get to have a chat with everyone down at the World Pro Racing Simulation Centre, but I think in a minute we'll hand over to the studio team over in Malta with the likes of Simon, Edwin and Ricardo to unpackage what a final race that was.
Yeah, definitely a wonderful race. Mikael Mercia today showed what a driver he is. I mean, since the start he was leading the race a huge gap, I would say. A gap which of course handed in both winning this race and also the national championship, which is, I think, something noticeable. What do you think, Simon?
Definitely. And you know, we talk about that gap. On its own, it wouldn't have been enough. He needed to drive every lap spot on. You know, he had a massive gap to almost a minute gap to Bernavella after the pit stop phases, and he just kept going. Every corner was perfect. Every lap he just closed in by almost 10 seconds. He drove so well, and he fully deserves this win in both the race and the championship.
Yeah, definitely. Consistency is a crucial factor in these races. Edwin, your comment?
What amazes me is what's staggering actually when you have Michael Merci out, that we all thought that he made the wrong decision. We all thought of it. We thought that he made the wrong choice by pitting for wets, and then all of a sudden the wipers were switched off. We all thought of it. We thought that his race was over actually, but he fought back. 53-second gap or whatever it was, something like that. He fought it back, passed brilliantly actually Bernard Vella, and won the race. What an amazing, a truly amazing drive by Michael Merci. That's an amazing achievement.
I have to agree with you 100%. And also, we have to give as much congratulations to Bernard Vella. He drove at the wheels of that car, quite literally. They were on there for over an hour. But like, he managed to control the car where so many drivers had spins and had accidents in the wet. He just didn't. He knew how to control his car perfectly, and unfortunately it didn't work out for him. He couldn't keep that lead. But the effort is well worth the congratulations and well worth praise.
The one disappointment was, I think everyone will agree with me, is Jason Muscat.
For sure.
Where was Jason Muscat at the end of the race? 30-second gap. He was with the same tires as Michael Merci. He just didn't have the pace throughout the whole race, either if it was dry or wet. His race pace was nowhere today, Jason Muscat, unfortunately for him.
Towards the end, he was catching Bernavella. I do think that without the spin, he would have gotten in second place, and that would have secured him the championship. So it's one of those things where he's going to be kicking himself for that one tiny mistake. And it's a very easy one to make. You lose the rear end out of, I believe it was the second chicane, and end up in the gravel. It's not a difficult mistake to make, especially in the wet, especially on dry tires. He just lost that. He lost concentration for that fraction of a second, and that cost him everything today.
It was a costly mistake, even for Dean Vella.
Absolutely.
A costly, really grave mistake, actually. Just these cars, they tend to bite you. As Alex said, this track could bite, and it did. It bit Dean Vella really hard, actually, because he was there fighting for the championship.
Also, allow me to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we did not see one mistake from Bernard in his driving.
No,
as far as I know, there were no mistakes.
He was very good. Obviously, you know, you're not going to be perfect every single quarter. I think there was, the only thing coming to mind is one tiny moment of him running wide into the second chicane, but he didn't lose anywhere near enough. He didn't lose anywhere like a significant amount of time from it. It was a mistake, but not a. You could make that mistake anywhere, and it wouldn't really matter unless you're at a battle, you know. So, as you're saying, he drove so well, absolutely everywhere he needed to be. Was it enough? No, but to go into that race knowing and confident in the fact that you can make it to the end, with the understanding that pretty much all the other competitors are going to pit, that is bold. And he pulled it off so well.
Yes, I fully agree. No mistakes. He thought of finishing the race without pitting, but what we thought that Mikhail has made, as Edwin was saying, and you, Simon, were saying, that we thought that actually Mikhail made a mistake, but actually it was the right choice to make to win the race.
Definitely, especially, you know, he could build that gap because he was running lighter fuel. So it's really difficult to say like if this, if that, because the drivers were running two completely different races, which is why Bernavella was so slow at the beginning, because he knew that he was going to not lose any time in a pit stop. He wasn't going to have one. Michael Merci knew he had to be fast coming out of the pits because he had a minute to make up. I think without the rain, we would have seen a very different race. I think.
Yes, definitely.
And as you rightly said, Simon, Bernard Vella, he tried something different. He tried to fill up the car with fuel, fully with fuel, full up, and he tried to finish the race with just one set of tires, which, in my opinion, that's the only mistake he did during race. And I tell you why. Because during all the races, half an hour race, we always asked the drivers about the tire life and how were the tires, and what they all of us said, the tires were shot. All of them said the tires were gone. Sheldon Scott Muscat, one of them, he always told me the tires were shot. I had a big vibration. So they knew that in a 30-minute race the tires were shot. That's the only mistake I think Bernard Vella did, that he ran the whole race with just one set of tires, even though we all knew, and I think even he knows, that the one set of tires isn't enough for the whole race. That's the only mistake. But other than that, he drove brilliantly with those set of tires in the rain. But also we don't need to discount drivers like Rizzo.
Oh,
what an amazing two amazing overtakes that he did on a Bayer. One on the outside, yes, maybe it was a bit questionable with 4 wheels of the time. We have to take a look at it actually. But at that moment, it looked brilliantly. And even on the one sending it into the parabolic on the inside, that was brilliant.
Definitely.
That was amazing.
2 incredible moves. And I believe he finished P4, which would have secured him the championship lead in his battle with Corral and Foster.
Exactly.
A great drive from him. I think even Corral, like, props to him, we saw him do some amazing overtakes. Obviously, towards the end, he had a spin. I don't know how much that would have cost him in the end. But those two drove incredibly well. Especially to beat out someone like Esnabeya, who has a race win in the series. He's not a slow driver. And we've seen from Lime Rock, he can defend. His defensive skills are impeccable. So to make those 2 moves, as you're saying, are really, really well done. And he deserves every inch of credit for them.
Yeah, even I have to agree with you that Rizzo today did a great race, but okay, I don't want to sort of remove any merit, but let's not forget that he had nothing to lose.
No, of course.
Definitely.
He just went all out. Whatever happens, happens. He's not in the fight for the championship.
But he was brilliant. I'm not saying that he did not have a brilliant. He was brilliant.
Absolutely.
I was a bit disappointed with the Bayers always missing the braking spot. I mean, that could have been...
I think that shows more to how challenging the conditions were, with the rain and with everything.
Definitely.
Also on his tires and everything.
I have to admit that particular braking point is difficult even in the dry, not to mention the wet.
Definitely.
But the Bayer's tactics in first corner are, well, not questionable, are a bit laughable as well, because he's always went wide there.
Okay, I think those have been our opinions on the race. What an incredible race it was. Kieran and Alex, back over to you. How did you think? What are your final thoughts?
I think it's a shame it's all over.
Where do you start? Where do you start? I mean, it's crazy. I think, I think Bernard Vella has really, as Edwin said, should have changed tyres. If he'd have done that, he would have been in striking distance of Mercia, and we could have seen him run to the title. However, that was not the case. I mean, it is what it is. We've got a winner. We can look back at it as much as we like, but Michael Mercier is the champion.
I think hindsight is 20/20 as well. You know, it's
obviously
it's nice to look back and think, well, maybe he should have done this. But I think in that moment, 20 seconds down on the race leader, he knew the strategy of, well, I'm fueled to the end. I want to make these tyres last to the end, and I think that way, that's the only way he thought he could win the race. And the way you're going to beat Mercia, especially with a 20-second lead, is trying something different than what Mercia did. And fair play to Bernard Vella, he did that. And if it was a 54-minute race, it would have worked perfectly. Unfortunately, it was the last 6 minutes where his tyres were absolutely gone, really. There's nothing we could really describe that would benefit the tyres at that point. As Edwin was saying down there, after 30 minutes we've seen in previous races, we've seen them that the tyre wear is not good at all. They're, pretty much worn out by that point. So the fact that Bernard Vella tried to make them last the whole race, it was ambitious and it almost worked. It was 6 minutes away from working. We'll hear very shortly from the drivers, and I'm really interested to see what Michael Mercier has to say about that. But before we do, Alex, I mean, you've come through into the championship finale and you've been treated to an absolute world of a race.
To be honest with you, Monza never seems to disappoint at all, Kieran. Never disappoints. I've commentated on it, virtually speaking, It is one of the circuits that is on my bucket list to be there alongside the Tifosi for the Italian Grand Prix. And hopefully everyone who is there this weekend enjoys the spectacle of the 2021 Formula One World Championship this weekend in Italy. Yeah, it's a great place for sports cars. I've commentated on it virtually so many times, and tonight was no exception. It provided so much bang for your buck, and it was a real pleasure to be here for the finale here, Kieran.
Absolutely, and we've crowned our winner in Michael Murcia, and by your maths there, Alex, which are much better than mine, by that single point. And
that's always the good thing about having a piece of paper to your left-hand side. That's how old school it is when you're working out points.
It needs to be old school. Sometimes old school is the way forward, you know? You could have all these fancy graphs, you could have trying to work it out in your head, but nothing beats a good pen and paper to keep a track of what on earth the points are doing. And in that race we had Dean Vella maybe shaping up the championship in that one, you know, all sorts. Well, we are going to head down to the World Pro Racing Simulation Centre. I believe Davinia is with Jason Muscat.
Hi Kieran, it's Yaz. I'm joined with Jason Muscat right now. Jason, you placed third. How are you feeling about that?
Honestly, I'm disappointed. But you know, that's racing. I did my best. Unfortunately, I believe today that single spin in the middle of the race cost me the championship. But yeah, well done to Mikhail. He did really well today. He got a bit lucky with the rain, but yeah, that's...
I believe everyone is a winner at the end of the day because you're bettering your skills, you're developing yourself as a driver. Would you like to add anything else to your experience?
I would like to thank World Pro Racing for organizing this championship. I believe it was a very good experience for all of us. Thank you all, to everyone basically.
Thank you for your wonderful performance. Ricardo, would you like to add anything to
Yeah, actually I think you were being too nice with Jason.
Yes.
Let's grill him a bit. What happened, Jason? What do you think that, I mean...
No holding back here.
We saw that spin. What was wrong? What do you think you did wrong in this race that actually you could have done better?
I should have pitted earlier, for sure. That would have avoided the spin, and I think I would have been able to catch Bernard towards the end as well. So, yeah, I think that was the main mistake. I believe.
Were you following Bernard?
Yes. I was thinking if he doesn't pit, I shouldn't pit. But then I saw Mikhail coming really fast, and I thought, okay, it's not gonna work if I stay out. In practice, it didn't rain so much, and it felt like the dry tires were holding up. But in the race, it rained even more, and I think that made it much harder.
Yeah, in fact, we saw you struggling quite a lot.
Yes.
Especially in the chicanes with those tires, it was, I think, very difficult with that wet track.
Yes, and to be honest, I think even with the rain tires, I was struggling compared to the rest, because once I pitted for the rain tires, I was still losing time to Mikhail. So my performance today in the wet wasn't so good.
So you did plan to pit?
It wasn't planned, no.
Oh,
I had fuel for the whole race. So in fact, I didn't add fuel in the pit stop. But yeah, I think if it hadn't rained, it would have been a battle between me and Bernard to the finish, because I believe Mikhail wouldn't have been able to catch us. But yeah.
Thank you, Jason. Well done, of course.
Thank you.
Not the best race, but well done as well.
Well done from my end as well, and thank you for joining us right now. We're gonna cut back to Kieran and Alex.
Thank you, Yaz. Yeah, Jason Muscat then, well, there's only twice this season he's finished off the podium, Alex. It's just been so consistent throughout the season, has Jason Muscat, but not his night tonight.
I mean, he was very open and upfront about the fact that he'd fueled for the entire race, which was a very, very brave strategy. Now, for those wondering how come Bernard Vella had so much traction, and I know we're going to hear from Bernard very, very soon indeed, but when you put a lot more fuel in the car, even on dry help in some sort of respects there as well. So realistically, you know, it was about chancing it. Bernard chanced it, but it didn't pay off, and Mikael just literally was, you know, we saw the first start he did, then we had the restart. It was a repeat. It was like it was a carbon copy from Mikael, and I know for a fact that Bernard will also be disappointed, but I think, as Yaz rightly put, that everyone in this championship is a winner. You know, having everyone take part in the simulation centre at World Pro Racing, everyone's equal on equal equipment, fixed setups on the 720S GT3 McLarens at 8 different tracks over 8 weeks, with plenty of racing, plenty of time to get customised to the vehicle, to the circuits, go through qualifying, and then go flat out for 30 or 60 minutes of a race. So realistically, you know, Mikael Machega is our champion, but it's the winners of, though, you know, everyone's a winner in this championship, and also one of the biggest winners is one of the biggest federations behind it, the Malta Motorsport Federation, and by their instinctiveness and to back this championship, I mean, we also have to say a big thank you to Enemed, Gaming Malta, 3CX and Vibe FM for being on board with it as well. I think everyone has made a pivotal part of this championship to bring sim racing to the masses. I mean, Malta in its own right has got a very, very big gaming community, and sim racing is a part of that.
Definitely. And now we are ready to throw it over to the interviews to Yaz and Ricardo as they interview Bernard Vella.
Joining us now is Bernard Vella, our second place. How are you feeling?
Honestly, I'm really disappointed that there was, in fact, a mistake in the settings of the game. I would like to take the moment to say that I, in fact, have proof of this, that the track was not drying as obviously the sun came out and it stopped raining. This is a mistake that can happen, obviously, and an organization can make a mistake. The track was set at 60%, and I would like to say that I'm really disappointed that this cost me the championship.
So what do you think? So your strategy was for a no pit stop, right?
Yes.
But then when it started raining, I think that did affect your strategy.
Obviously, it did affect. I was saving fuel, so as the rain came down, I slowed down, obviously, because the grip reduces, you save more fuel, and it was a really good strategy for the race. Unfortunately, once the rain stopped, the track didn't start drying because there was a setting that was turned off in the game, and there's nothing you can do.
But what about your battle with Dean? But I think at one point you gave way. But was it because you were saving on your tires?
I was saving fuel, and I wanted to make sure to get to the end. I knew exactly how much fuel I needed to make it to the end, so I was going to use him as a draft to make sure I save even more fuel, and then I would get him towards the end of the race.
So, a question which I have to ask. It feels bad being chased down, but
yes.
How would you comment it?
Obviously, I expected the line to start drying up, but like I said, there was a setting that was turned off. If it didn't turn off, I would have had the championship easily, as the other drivers told me. But a mistake happens by everyone. The organization here made a mistake, and there's just what happens sometimes.
Actually, I mean, you were only like about 5 minutes away, I think, from because you gave. I mean, not you gave up, but I mean, Mikael overtook you like 4 minutes, I think, before the end of the race. We all agree that it was a bold move, your strategy, but I don't know whether you heard Jason, but Jason said he was sort of having your same strategy.
Yes, Jason was going to do the same thing, but once he saw that the track wasn't drying like it should in real life, you know, there's nothing you can do, you need to pit, and that was his situation, but unfortunately he made some mistakes, and it didn't pay off for him.
Okay, I don't know, yes, whether you have any more questions?
Unfortunately, these things happen. You just need to adapt and overcome. Yes. It's a challenge after all. It's a championship. But personally, I think you did a wonderful performance, and second place is an amazing place. Would you like to add anything else?
Obviously, thank you for your comments, and I would like to congratulate Mikael for the championship.
Yes, very nice of you. As you said, Bernard, I think you did very well, okay, despite that
Sure.
incident which you're mentioning. Of course, we look forward to see you in perhaps the next national championship.
We'll see. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard Vella, and well done. Back to Kieran and Alex.
Thank you, Yaz. Only once off the podium for Bernard Vella over the entire season. That's quite some performance over the championship, 2 of them being wins, and to miss out at the final round is going to be gut-wrenching.
It is, because it's right in the pit of your stomach, and you know, I can only say commiserations to Bernard, but I have to give my hats off and to go with that bravado style strategy all the way through, and he admitted that Jason was going to do the same thing. So obviously Bernard had to try and see it through to the end, as you rightly put, Kieran. If the race was shortened by 6 minutes, Bernard would be in a very, very different position altogether. But obviously, as he admitted, yeah, mistakes do happen, that is part of the human condition. But we have to congratulate him for his efforts all the way through the season, and realistically that's all we can say on that matter, to be honest with you.
And I think as well, I don't think it's the last we've seen of Bernard Vella. I think that's really only the start of him. But we do have our champion ready in Mikael Mercia. He joins Yaz and Ricardo.
Here we have our winner, Mikael Mercia. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
Quite happy. It was a very difficult race, as such. I risked it when I went for a one stop, and I was lucky as soon as I had my pit stop, it began to rain, so it was like perfection at that time. So then I was hoping to that the rain keeps on going till the end. Eventually the sun was coming out, and I thought it was the end actually, because it's going to dry, but it did not. So in the end I won.
No, you overcame the rain and the wet road, so props to you. That was a very challenging thing to do, and you managed and you killed it. Would you like to ask him anything, Ricardo?
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, let's talk a bit about strategy. So Bernard and Jason admitted they had the same strategy, basically, no stop race. So if I understood well, you had in mind to pit.
Yeah, actually, I think that's why I said I risked it. I think there was no need to pit, and if it did not rain, I would have not had the chance to compete for the win. So as I said, I got really lucky with the rain, but yeah, that's what it's racing, so anything can happen.
So that's why, I mean, that explains why you initially were so fast and were having such a big gap.
Yeah, that's why I underfueled the car, like to have 2 same stints of this, like low fuel. So that was my goal actually. So in the end, like I was waiting for the rain to come, and my second backup plan was actually to just fuel the car, not change tires, because I would waste more time in the pits. Since I had the big gap, I could afford, like I was going to come out maybe 10-11 seconds behind Bernard and Jason, so I could have fought for P3 if it did not rain, but it did, so that's why I think I got lucky.
You had an excellent race, I would say. I mean, we were seeing the gap lap after lap, minute after minute, closing down all the time over Bernard, and then it was a matter of seconds that we overtake him, and of course get a well-deserved win, I would say.
Yeah, as soon as I thought we were going to have rain earlier, so as soon as we did not have any rain at the beginning, I pushed as hard as I can. I know I had the advantage with lower fuel, and I basically just said whatever happens, happens now, like there's no coming back to it. So I got lucky with the rain, and that's what happens then. Unfortunately, as I saw the sun come out in the end, it did not dry, so that came to a huge favor for me. And also Bernard did not pit after the rain, so that also helped me, as I needed Jason to finish in P3 to be able to win the championship. So in the end it got very close.
Okay, so let's be honest now. When did you feel that the race was yours? Not to mention the championship.
I mean, I was always on edge all the time, like, and at the end, like with 6-7 minutes to go, I mean, technically, like from as soon as the rain stopped, like there was 16-17 minutes left of the race, and I was calculating how much the gap was dropping, like from 30 seconds to 26, 24, 22, and then at the end, like 6 minutes left, like, oh, I got close, and
yes,
like I
indeed.
had the chance. And seeing that he was, I think he stood and fought for P2, then I thought this is my chance, I have to push all out, and it came to my favor as I had the wet tires and the advantage at the end.
Yes, I would like to congratulate you once again. Excellent drive, hands down. Well done. We have Mikhail here, the National GT3 Championship. Yes, would you like to add something to this?
I would just like to say my favorite part was the fact that you used the rain and the wet road to your advantage. Very well done to that. I would just like to ask a bit more of an emotional question rather than strategical. What does this win mean to you? And we saw you messaging a bit before. Who did you share your win with first?
Yeah, like from now on, like it's working harder. Maybe next year we have the chance to represent Malta on the FIA Motorsport Games if obviously another championship happens and I get to be fighting for it again. Yeah, obviously I went on to message my friends, my family, my girlfriend, like thank you for their support, and like they have been very helpful to keep me calm, I think, to give me the extra motivation, to push me. Also Bernard and Jason, like they pushed me till the end. I know I had fierce competition, I think. So yeah, overall I think it is done now, champion.
Very sweet. It's very emotional here in this room. I would like to congratulate you.
Thank you.
Very, very well done from myself and from everyone from Tour Pro Racing. Back to Kieran and Alex.
Thank you very much, Yaz. And well, a very, really good performance. 4 wins from Michael Murcia across the season, and just shows you there that even with those 4 wins, it was a tough old championship, winning by a slim margin there. But fair play to him. You know, sometimes you need a brush of that luck, of Lady Luck on your side, but when Lady Luck was there, it was there for Michael Murcia, and he took full advantage.
Complete advantage. I think you know, he was away with the fishes at that particular point when he'd managed to put on the wet tyres. You know, a very, very shrewd strategy call from Michael Murcia to be one of the first drivers to pit. As soon as the rain came down, he was the first one in there. He just thought, you know what, it's wet. Track might evolve. I've got an opportunity here, and he made it work. And I think the thing was that because of the fact that the track was not drying, as Bernard said earlier, that gave Michael the perfect opportunity. If Jason had not had that issue when he'd gone off through Ascari and had spun and the car nearly hit the barriers, I think he was very, very lucky with that. Was Jason, if I'm completely truthful here. But it was just the fact that Michael was quick in free practice, Bernard Vella was quickest in qualifying. Michael at one point was 8/10 off of qualifying pace, and that's on a fixed setup. That just shows the calibre of these drivers, especially Michael. He was pushing, I think he got to within 6/10 of pole position in qualifying on a race pace. Now that says a lot about the quality of Michael Murcia, but you can't discount anybody else in this championship, the likes of Dean Vella, the likes of Bernard Vella, the likes of Jason Muscat, Sheldon Scott Muscat. Unfortunately, Lady Luck was not on his side. Unfortunately, the 4-leaf clover was not in the McLaren, and he ended up in the barriers very, very early on. I mean, before we saw them going through Cova Grande and the car was, you know, looking a bit skittish on the steering, it was actually happening going down into the Rettifilio chicane. So the problems had already started before Sheldon Scott Muscat had even gotten, you know, had ended up retiring. The problems are already there, and that could have cost him the opportunity of maybe being in the top 5 in the championship come the end of this race.
Yeah, and for Sheldon Scott Muscat, you know, if you've been watching World Pro Racing, you know he's a quality driver. It just wasn't his championship this time around. Well, we're going to hand back to the studio now in Malta, where we hand back to Simon, Yaz and Ricardo.
Joining us now is Simon, who was our commentator for the night. Simon, would you like to give us a little roundup of tonight and maybe from round 1 as well?
Definitely. I'll start with tonight, as it's the one freshest on our memories. It was such a good race. You know,
amazing.
We were kind of joking amongst ourselves that we're going to double the length, and we're going to get double the action. Probably got triple the action. It was everywhere you looked, there was a battle. Everywhere you looked, someone was on a different strategy. Someone was making a mistake and people profiting off it. It was genuinely so much fun to watch. And at the end of it, we had a race winner who has shown time and time again in this championship how consistent and how fast he is. Mikel Machia has won 4 races so far. That is 4 out of 8. 50% of the races were won by him. That is incredible pace.
Very impressive.
But kind of the flip side of that is where it comes to the other drivers, Bernard Vella and Jason Muscat, were more consistent race in, race out. Sure, they maybe had less of these like high point scoring positions, less of these race wins. But the flip side to that is that they were consistently on the podium, consistently getting those high points, so they were able to take the fight with right at the end of the championship. And as we saw, it literally came down to 2 laps. All Bernard Vella needed to do was hang on for 2 laps, and he just didn't have the pace. That's what lost him. And Jason Muscat, I was talking to him earlier outside. You clearly see how defeated he was, how unfortunate it was to have that mistake. He knows that cost him the championship today. If he hadn't, he probably would have caught Bernard Vella. He was just like Machia. He pit for the wet tires. He was significantly faster, so he could have won this championship. On the whole, if you're looking at it in the big picture, I think Mikel Machia can be so proud of everything he's done. He's been on the pace every single race, and his worst performances have been better than some people's best, and that is a feat that very few drivers can say, not just in this series, but in racing in general. And and then if you look down the field, I'm talking Bernard Vella and Jason Muscat. By down the field, I mean a point down the field. They're 2 incredibly quality drivers. They have the pace, they have the speed, they know how to overtake, and they know how to defend. We're going to be seeing so much more of them in the future, and we're going to be seeing so much more success from them in the future, and that is incredible to see. And obviously, we can't discount anyone else either. Dean Vella, Sheldon Scott Muscat, 2 drivers. When they're on their day, they have the pace to challenge the top 2. Unfortunately, luck didn't get the best of them. They didn't manage to get those high-scoring positions they really needed. Dean Vella was good with very consistently on the podium, but luck today he made the mistake, took him out of the running. Very, very unfortunate. And if you look down to the field, this championship also shows how much growth can happen in just a few races. Today, Rizzo and Corral got 4th and 5th, which, if you had asked anyone at the first race, would have seemed inconceivable. But they had the pace, they were racing all the time. Every time we cut back to them, someone was making an incredible overtake. Again, strategy, the rain helped them, but it isn't Rizzo's first incredible performance. Last week, he again had a 5th place finish, so another example of just his steady improvement. He's going to get better. We're going to see him in more things, and he's going to be so, so good. Give him 6 months, he could probably win a championship like this.
I agree.
The same goes for everyone else.
I agree, 100%. Ricardo, would you like to give your thoughts on the final round?
Well, yes. If I had to do assessment on today's drivers, I mean, I will pretty much agree with Simon. We already discussed before about Rizzo and his feet and the way he drove today, and considering also the fact that he doesn't has got a rig at home. So, I mean, considering everything, well done to him. If I had to say who was the driver who I liked today, surprisingly, it would be Gianluigi Corrao. I saw him very aggressive. He was reminding me of Daniel Ricciardo all the time. Well, being aggressive in today's race leads to mistakes, unless you really, I mean, drive well. I think that's what's penalized Corrao. But otherwise, I think he was very aggressive, full of energy in the race. Of course, I'm not going to comment on Muscat or Vella. Yes, Dean Vella was very unlucky. Same goes for Sheldon Scott Muscat. We already mentioned Bayer's over and over mistake about that braking point. But yes, in this sport and in this type of sport, I mean sim racing, you need to practice, practice, practice. And of course, you need also to know, learn, like braking points, the way you get into a turn, whether you have to go on the curbs, off the curbs. Each track has its particular...
For sure.
So, yes, I think today, as we also interviewed before, I mean, Jason Muscat and also Bernard Vella, hands down, I have to repeat, Michael Machia definitely deserves the title, not just for today, but for the championship.
Definitely.
Of course, as you said, sorry, Simon. Yes, the other drivers, works in progress. I encourage actually anyone who is interested in the sports to take it up if possible. Yes, one time you will be, as we saw, I think Foster was 3 laps behind, but he shouldn't give up. Practice makes perfect in the sport. Of course, you need, as I said, to learn the racing line, braking points, and everything. But one day you'll get there. I happen to know very well Jason Muscat. I know he's an excellent driver. And actually, I can really understand his disappointment today, because I'm pretty sure Jason could have won this championship. But as I said before, Mikhail did brilliant. So I'm not saying anything against that.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much all your sentiments today. Racing is one of those sports you're either there or you're not. Unfortunately, this time he wasn't, but this is definitely not the last we've seen of him. It's definitely not going to be his last success. Or I'd say everyone in the top 4 has driven a Razorly every single race, and everyone in the entire field has had their moments of pure brilliance. It's been such an incredible championship, and on to the next one. Like, come on, let's do this again. I want to do this tomorrow and every day. It's been so much fun.
I would just like to ask a question. Both you and the commentators have, it's a bit of a spicy question. You mentioned luck a lot, but do you really think luck plays a factor in these types of championships?
I think luck always plays a factor. You know, someone could make the case that if the rain hadn't come today, Bernard Vella might have won. You could make the exact same argument that actually he would have had to save too much fuel and Mikhail would have caught him up anyway. Luck isn't some like dirty word in racing. Everything is based on luck. Obviously, the drivers are skillful. All of them have the talent to win this championship. It's a question of how good are you at applying that talent to every single race, how consistent you are when you're applying the talent, and if something happens that's out of your control, how good are you at bouncing back. We saw this, Jason Muscat had a win taken away from him in, I believe it was Mills Metro Park, because he had a penalty. Sure, it was his fault he got the penalty, but it's still unlucky that it happened. So in that sense, luck, you can't separate luck from racing, but just because someone was lucky doesn't mean they didn't deserve it, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense for sure.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with Simon on this. I mean, as we saw today, I mean, lucky for some, unlucky for others. Today, the rain was a lucky strike for Mikhail, perhaps, and then unlucky strike for both Bernard and Jason. I mean, Jason admitted he struggled. I mean, even with rain tires, he struggled to go around this track. So yes, even from my experience as a sim racer, yes, you would have planned the strategy and everything, but then you cannot control certain factors which happen along the race. I mean, if, for an instance, you lose concentration, you spin, you hit a barrier, and you get no damage, so that's luck. Because as we saw today, you can hit a barrier and you damage a spoiler, so that's bad luck, and that's so yes, I have to agree with Simon. You cannot separate the two. Talent, of course, has to be there, but yes, I mean, even if we see in Formula One races, I mean, we saw Verstappen when his tire blew up, for example,
in Baku, yeah.
So yes, luck they go hand in hand, basically.
I think you answered my question very well. Thank you very much to both of you. Thank you, Ricardo, for joining us.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
That was insane. It was a very, very interesting and emotional championship. From myself and from the team at World Pro Racing in Malta, we would like to say thank you and have a good night. Back to Kieran and Alex.
Thank you very much, Yaz, and everyone in the studio down there who's worked so hard to make this series look as good as it actually was as well, Alex. It's been absolutely fantastic, and just seeing the development of the studio as well as we've gone through has been amazing to see as well. A big thank you to Yaz, Simon and Davidia for their fantastic skills all the way through. They've been absolutely a pleasure to work with, as well as our guests further down the line. Alex, we've crowned a champion. We've come to the end of what's been a fantastic championship, and I agree with Simon. Bring on the next one. Do it now.
Yeah, well, a big thank you firstly to Enemed, who have fueled this championship. A big thank you to Gaming Malta, 3CX, 5FM, and also the Malta Motorsport Federation, established back in 2007. A big thank you to all our viewers over at TBM Sports in Malta, motorsport.tv, esports television that have also been broadcasting us live. We have to say a big thank you to R Factor 2 for providing a fantastic platform, providing us with some great cars in the form of the McLaren 720S GT3. And also, myself and Kieran, we can't thank World Pro Racing enough, where sim racing becomes real, and that really is it from us tonight. Don't forget, next week, Hyper X Open Series Race 6 heads to Belgium, to Zolder, and that takes place around about the same time as we started tonight. So really, I think that's it from us. Goodbye for now. See you next time.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Office without limits. Slash your telco costs. Boost agent productivity and customer service. Web conferencing for all. Never miss a call. .3CX, everywhere you go, on premise or in the cloud. 3cx.com.
ma saħħalsulhom il-fuel. Ara ġej.
Wara ftit ġranet kellna rebbieħ ieħor fil-logħba tagħna kontra 30 sekonda bil-maqlub.
Suqu fuq ir-riserva xejdu le mhix se tieqaf. Il-ġimgħa d-dieħla nkunu fuq pompa tal-Enemed oħra nagħtu xi ħaġa oħra.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
Okay, we proceed to the start.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.